Cindy McCain, an author in her own right, brand new book, Stronger.
Hello.
Courage, Hope, and Humor in My Life with John McCain. It is good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I miss the senator ripping me to shreds before every interview I ever did with him. And one of my favorite lines of his was, gee, I wish I was there, or I wish you could just lean a little bit closer so I could get a clean shot at your nose. He had humor, but he had principle. And you knew that those were two things that you could count on. Ms. McCain, do you think that, in your book you said that you have hope that the party can regenerate itself, swing away from the disgrace it has become? I know you just wrote it, but watching what's happened right now, can you still feel that way? Or do you think at least for now-ish, this party is only going in the wrong direction?
Well, when John and I first started all of this, the Republican Party was really, truly a wonderful place to be. It was the party of inclusion. It was the party of Abraham Lincoln, all the things that we know about it. And I believe that even at the point that we're at right now, because we only have one way to go, and that's up, that the pendulum will swing and we will regain what we have been good about for so many years. I just have to believe that, and I believe that Republicans, good moderate Republicans, believe that too.
But they're being forced to be quiet because the pendulum hasn't stopped swinging that one way. You make another interesting point in the book about, hey, you need more women in the game, right? Which makes a lot more sense. But you know what? Gender's not enough because you have Boebert and you have, the QAnon lady. Not all ladies are the same, as it turns out. And you see this Stefanik that's being groomed to take over for Liz Cheney. What does that tell you?
Well, I think our party does have to be careful in making sure that we are a party of inclusion, and it's not just women, but it's people of color, our gay folks, our folks that, or folks of whatever gender they choose to be, all need to be a part and welcomed within our party. But we do need to be careful. We can't. It doesn't serve any good if we just oust someone who really is a good representative of the party.
But that's exactly what's happening right now. I mean, in a way, you guys are kind of post-identity. You can be whatever identity you want, as long as you go with what Trump said, which is that the lie of the election must stand. And it doesn't matter what you are if you don't say that, you're going to be on the way out. In fact, even what you say in the book, what you learned from John and Joe, meaning Biden, the president, of course, who was friends with your husband, good friends, you got trouble on your hands. Cindy McCain, even with the pedigree of your family, and deservedly so, you can't talk about Joe Biden as being a good guy.
Well, I watched Joe and John work together across the aisle, and the difference in those days were that they did it for the good of the country. Right now, we're seeing a party that is so misguided that they're doing it for themselves, what's good for themselves. We have got, as I said before, I truly believe that the pendulum will swing back. I think we're gonna hit some more bumpy roads though along the way. Clearly, Trump's not gonna let it go down easy.
If the Biden administration offered you a position, would you consider taking it?
I would serve in any capacity that if the president would ask me to do so, yes, I would.
Okay. No, part of me, I didn't want to ask this question because I didn't want to make trouble for you. But I think in the interest of what you're talking about, people of good faith who want to do the right thing should not be held in check by any kind of partisan affiliation. So I just wanted you on the record for that. I wish you well going forward, and I wish you well with the book. It is called Stronger, and it's on sale right now. Cindy McCain, I remember your husband well, and I wish your family all blessings. Be well.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
I'm Morgan, and there's more to me than HIV. More love, more adventure, more community. But with my HIV treatment, there's not more medicines in my pill. I talked to my doctor and switched.
Then there are communities who don't take walk-in hours.
Just over a year ago, I was drowning in credit card debt.
SoFi helped me pay off $23,000 in credit card debt.
They help me to consolidate all of that into one low monthly payment.
They make you feel like it's an honor for them to help you out.
I went from sleepless nights to getting my money in scratches. So thank you.
What?
A number of acquiring the vaccine.
A good question. Should not be held in check. Will people now
For following their conscience.
struck him down? Look what he's doing with D Lemon. Things are opening anyway. But I get it that you. By the way, I hear what you got.
Just say what design into your voice remote to add a channel or streaming service and stay caught up.
I'm Nitika Sood in New Delhi, and this is CNN.
By the way, I hear what you guys are telling me on social media and directly and on the radio show at Sirius XM, the POTUS channel 124, 12 to 2 Eastern. I get it that you're frustrated that you're vaccinated and you're not able to do more of the things that you think you should be doing. And that now you don't like hearing that you have to wait for other people and you don't want to see their feelings get hurt because they want to go slow. But why should you have to wait? I get it all. But these are hard decisions and Biden will be measured by them. The question is, will people take the vaccine when things are reopening anyway? Let's put that question to the big show and the big star, CNN Tonight with D Lemon. Things are opening anyway. And a lot of people keep telling me, I don't know about you, but why do I have to risk it with the vaccine? You took it. You know, everybody else is taking it who needs it. I don't need to take it.
Because you want to lessen your chances of getting it. Simple answer, right? You don't know who doesn't have it. You don't want to put other people at risk. You also want to set a good example for your fellow countrymen. And if you're a parent, probably a good example for your children as to how to conduct themselves as responsible individuals. I mean, it's quite simple to me. I was speaking with a doctor last night, Chris. I know that what the CDC says about not wearing masks. And I was walking around our town this weekend on the street or going out for a jog, I didn't have the mask on. I had it with me. And then when a group of people walk by or I have to go into a store or get a coffee, I put the mask on. It's no harm, no foul, no skin off my back. But I hope that people would go and get the vaccine because it is so simple. I told you about my experience. It took me all of 7 minutes, both times, to get the vaccine. My arm was sore for.
And you're a big fainter.
I know. I needed a fainting couch. I had the vapors.
But look, I also get people who are saying to me, wait, I'm vaccinated now. I don't want to wear the mask. I get it. And I hear people who say, I'm going to keep wearing the mask anyway because I didn't get sick this year. I didn't get COVID.
I'm going to do that during flu season.
Look, I think it's now a more acceptable part of our culture. Look, my thing is like, you do whatever you want to do as long as it doesn't impact me. But I also think that there's a little bit of me that is skeptical. Like, hey, you should do this. It'll help you. It'll keep you healthier. Look at us. We're fat. We're lazy. We eat bad things. We drink bad things. We don't exercise.
I exercise. You don't exercise anymore.
But I'm saying, look, as a country, and look, let's be honest, you and I have like 3 different sets of clothes. We go up and down all year round.
This is my medium set.
That's who we are.
Yeah.
And the idea that people are going to step out and get the vaccine because it's the right thing to do for them and to show their kids, I don't even know that that's what we're about anymore in this country. And I'm not surprised. Look, you and I have been saying this a long time, and it's not because we're cynics. You got it right away. You've been better on the mask with anybody that I know. And you and Tim have treated me like, I had COVID the entire time. Like you wouldn't go anywhere you were doing it.
Remember, I'm like, hey, we're not going to come over.
Yeah, you checked every box. I mean, even when you hug me, you give me like the hand hug now. Like there's a hand here, there's a little pat on the back.
I give you the stiff arm.
And I'll take the Heisman. I get it's coming from a good place. But I do think that this 35 million sounds like a small number, but I don't think we get there. Yeah. And I think that so many people this summer, I think people have had it and they're going to try and take the easiest route. The trick is, how do you make them realize that doing it is worth it beyond information and personal satisfaction of prophylaxis?
Do you pay them?
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with incentives. I believe that for grades, by the way.
Yeah.
I say it to the kids all the time.
That would happen to me. I'd have a better GPA.
Right? What's wrong? I'm not paying my
I'd have
kids
a
to get
better
grades.
job.
Hey, I'll pay them because I have to pay when they don't get the grades.
Well-
I got to pay for the tutors and all the other stuff.
Boy,
So I'm fine with that. Donuts, beer, businesses. I think you and I, we call for a table. It's going to be mobbed where we live. Wait, we're both vaccinated. I think we should get a preference. I'm fine with it.
yeah. Well, I can't listen. There are many things we disagree on. This one we don't
Not
disagree
who
on.
should pay when we go out.
Oh yeah. Well,
I've never heard you fight
I never carry a wallet.
Man will fight over anything except a check.
Let me
You
say
know
this
about
before
yours.
I have to go.
Please.
And I do have to go. What a classy lady. What a,
Cindy McCain.
oh my gosh, she's amazing. What a classy, a beautiful woman, classy, and she is what every Republican should want to be, or at least what Republicans used to aspire to be. Man, we need more women, more people like her, especially in the Republican Party.
You know
I
who
don't get it.
disagrees with you? The new GOPQ.
Oh.
Do you
Yeah.
see what she wrote about Joe Biden?
Oh my gosh! You know what? I've lost faith in Liz Cheney. We got to get her out of there.
Hey, look,
No.
I had to think twice. Me of all people, I had to think twice. Do I want to put Cindy McCain on the spot about whether or not she's serving a Biden administration? That's how messed up things are right now.
Yeah.
That I had to think. You want to expose the widow of John McCain, and not to just limit that
She
that's,
can
who
handle it.
that that's who she is, but that I have to think about it.
Yeah.
That's where we are. That's a scary place.
Well, I'm going to talk about that right now because everyone, you know what I get people all the time. Oh God, what are you guys talking about Trump so much? I'm sick of talking about Trump or whatever. Because what's happening in the Republican Party, and Trump is a big part of it, affects all of
He's
us.
more powerful
right
now. Obi-Wan Kenobi
I don't know if he's more powerful.
on the Bizarro side.
I
They
think
struck
he's-
him down. Look what he's doing with his party.
I think he's more sinister, and I think he's more of the Wizard of Oz. But does he have powers with Wizard of Oz? We will soon find out.
They're cleaning
That
house,
midterm-
brother.
That midterm is coming up.
I'll
I
be
gotta
listening.
run.
I love you, D. Lemon.
I love you more, brother. So I'm going to get to what we were just talking about. This is CNN Tonight. I'm Don Lemon. And I know you're like, well, I know I hear it from you all the time. I'm going to explain to you why. Because the big lie is now the new GOP normal. One of the only truth tellers left, once Republican royalty, right? That's Cindy McCain. I'm talking about Liz Cheney. She was once Republican royalty, about to be driven out of town on a rail. So maybe you don't care about the Republican Party. Okay, I get it. Maybe you don't care about Donald Trump. I certainly get it. Okay, I hear it all the time. Maybe you never want to hear about him again. My goodness, I hear that a lot from both Democrats and Republicans. But what's happening in the Republican Party right now means not only are you not free of him, the truth is still held hostage. And the damage to the truth and democracy, well, there's no end in sight. This is bigger than just Liz Cheney. This is bigger than politics. This is bigger than right versus left. This is the Republican Party selling its soul for power. Hear me out. Putting the foundation of our democracy, our free and fair elections, in jeopardy, siding with lies. The big lie over the truth. I asked you last night, just think if someone, a colleague, an acquaintance, a friend, a lover, a family member, if they lied to you all the time, would you trust them? Would you believe them? Would you have any faith in them?
Nope.
Would you think that they thought you were stupid because they keep lying to you all the time?
Yep.
Think about those things. Here's the sources of telling CNN Tonight that is pretty much all over for the Congresswoman. Congresswoman Cheney, keeping her leadership position, I think, is just about a done deal. One saying, quote, she knew this was coming, and she is not afraid of the consequences. The stakes are too high. Another source saying this, a party that cannot abide by dissenting voices when it comes to an insurrection and an assault on a free and fair election is probably not much interested in democracy any longer. A party that's not much interested in democracy, okay? A party of election denial and insurrection. The Rupert Murdoch-controlled Wall Street Journal, writing in an editorial just tonight about Liz Cheney, and I quote, she may be ousted because she is daring to tell the truth to GOP voters and at personal political risk. CNN is told that the Congresswoman will not step aside. But the minority leader, Kevin McCarthy, is orchestrating a vote that could happen as soon as May 12th. McCarthy privately telling Fox that this is on a hot mic moment, right? Listen to this. Here it is.
I think she's got real problems. I've had it with her. I've lost confidence. Well, someone just has to bring emotion, but I assume that will probably take place.
So I want to point out that this audio has been edited and does not include Steve Doocy's questions, but that may be the most convenient hot mic moment ever. Let's face it. He hasn't exactly been keeping his thoughts about Liz Cheney a secret. I'm talking to Kevin McCarthy. He went on the Fox Propaganda Network to attack her without giving the Congresswoman a heads up.
I have heard from members concerned about her ability to carry out the job as conference chair, to carry out the message. We all need to be working as one if we're able to win the majority. Remember, majorities are not given, they are earned. And that's about the message about going forward. I haven't heard members concerned about her vote on impeachment. It's more concerned about the job ability to do and what's our best step forward that we can all work together instead of attacking one another.
What? Working together instead of attacking?
You're attacking her, you son of a bitch.
What you should be concerned about was on the Capitol, on our democracy, on the truth. But instead, he's concerned about staying on the former president's good side. Mitt Romney, who voted to convict Trump not once, but twice, saying this: every person of conscience draws a line beyond which they will not go. Liz Cheney refuses to lie. As one of my Republican Senate colleagues said to me following my impeachment vote, I wouldn't want to be a member of a group that punished someone for following their conscience. But that is sadly what the GOP seems to be determined to do. Punish Liz Cheney for refusing to go along with Trump's lies for her impeachment vote. And as McCarthy's claim that the Congresswoman is not on board with the GOP's message. Well, you got to wonder exactly what their message is. What are their policy proposals? What's their plan for America? What is it? What are they about? Policy. How are they helping you? What are they doing for you? The GOP has been struggling to come up with any kind of coherent message at all. What have they been standing up for lately? You really want to know? I have to say this every night. And it's the truth. Mr. Potato Head, Dr. Seuss.
First, they outlawed Dr. Seuss, and now they want to tell us what to say.
I am Sam. I am Sam. Sam I am.
You're an idiot. That's what you are.
That's Sam I am. That's Sam I am. I do not like that Sam I am. Do you like green eggs and ham? I do not like them, Sam I am. I do not like green eggs and ham.
Look out, Mr. Potato Head. You're next.
First it was Kermit the Frog and the Muppets, Mr. Potato Head, then now, Dr. Seuss. So I've said, I think this is the biggest threat to freedom we face.
They canceled Mr. Potato Head. This week alone, they canceled the Muppets. They're canceling Dr. Seuss from reading programs.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
I know, it's absurd, right? The theater of the absurd. But it's all real. It's all real. Fake outrage, fake grievance. The GOP is the party of absurd culture wars, throwing red meat to the base with repeated lies that President Biden somehow wants to take away your burgers. Yeah, that's enough. With tweets from the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene, no burgers for thee, but just for me. Madison Cawthorn, claiming Biden won't let you have a burger on the 4th of July. Uh-oh, the burger police is going to show up at your house. Come on. And Don Jr., of course, tweeting about eating 4 pounds of red meat. Okay. McCarthy weighing in too.
He wants control of your life. He's going to control how much meat you can eat. Can you imagine that?
Can you imagine this? Can you imagine being so desperate to try to undermine the current president because you have nothing? That is your message. Can you imagine being that desperate that you have to talk about hamburgers and Dr. Seuss and the Muppets? Seriously, think about that. That's the message of the Republican Party. The party of bogus stories, falsely claiming copies of Vice President Kamala Harris' book were being included in welcome kits given to migrant children at a shelter in Long Beach, California. They were not true. Bogus book claims. Again, red meat lies about red meat, right? Mr. Potato Head, Dr. Seuss. And while they're getting ready to kick Liz Cheney to the curb, look who the GOP is apparently fine with. Of course,
Matt Gaetz.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who spewed racist, Islamophobic, anti-Semitic garbage conspiracy theories, not to mention expressing approval of violence against Democrats. So that's the new normal. If you represent the Republican Party, right? If you have to defend them, that's what you have to defend. You have to defend lies. You have to defend really absurd culture wars. So you have that, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you have Matt Gaetz under a federal investigation for allegations of sex trafficking and prostitution, and then there is Josh Hawley. You remember how he saluted protesters outside the Capitol before the violence began? Now he is defending his vote to overturn the election, his vote to support the big lie.
Well, listen, I did what I said I was going to do on January the 6th, which is to voice my constituents' concerns about election integrity. And I wasn't going to let the actions of a lawless criminal mob who came to the Capitol and tried to stop the certification process, tried to stop the debate that we were in the middle of. I certainly wasn't going to allow their actions to interfere with my obligation to my constituents in doing what I said I was going to do.
Oh, he's talking about, by the way. So Senator Hawley wasn't going to let insurrectionists stop him from doing what he said he was going to do on January 6th. The thing is, what he was there to do was vote against certifying the election for Joe Biden, which is exactly what the insurrectionists wanted. So Josh Hawley, Matt Gaetz, and Marjorie Taylor Greene are all fine, but Liz Cheney is the one who's tearing the GOP apart. Fun, y'all. And that's where we are today. The big lie, now the new GOP normal. Stop saying that this is not our party. Yes, it is. The party of election denial and insurrection, siding with lies over the truth. That's the Republican Party right now. How long can Republicans who still care about the truth, who won't buy into the big lie, Republicans like Liz Cheney and Mitt Romney, how long can they stand with their party? Well, I think that's a great question for Sean Kasich. Next.
As your business changes, the United States Postal Service is changing with it. With e-commerce that runs at the speed of now, next day and 2-day shipping nationwide, and returns right from the doorstep. It's a whole new world out there. Let's not keep it waiting.
My garden brings us together.
My garden is my therapy.
Find more ways to grow at wearepreferred.com. Lawn, mowed, cabinet, handled, bathroom, tiled, air, conditioned, rack, mounted, parking, placed. Your project finished with a little help from Angie. Get $20 off your first home project at Angie.com today. Make your home an Angie home. Angie, and done.
It's so easy to sell on Poshmark. You just pick out your item, snap a couple of photos, and boom, it's up for sale. When I look at my old clothes now, I see dollar signs. Just this month, I've made a couple $100 on Poshmark just selling items out of my closet.
Buy and sell from home with the Poshmark app.
I've lost about 20 pounds, which blows my mind.
The psychology aspect of Noom was different than I'd ever seen before.
Noom helped me make a couple of lifestyle changes that made achieving that goal very easy. Visit Noom.com and change your life for good.
Go with Simparica Trio. It's triple protection made simple. Simparica Trio is the first and only monthly chewable that covers heartworm disease, ticks and fleas, round and hookworms. Dogs get triple protection in just one Simparica Trio. This drug class has been associated with neurologic adverse reactions, including seizures. Use with caution in dogs with a history of these disorders. Protect him with all your heart. Simparica Trio.
Where did they go? Was it run away and never returned?
You came all this way on the railroad?
Yeah. I know those people.
Hold on to what belongs to you.
What's the name?
When I think about climate change, the word I think of is jobs.
And these aren't just the jobs of tomorrow. They're the jobs of right now. Good-paying jobs to modernize our infrastructure in manufacturing, construction, engineering. They're in our cities, in our suburbs, and our small towns. We take on climate change, and we build back better with clean energy jobs.
So let's not waste any more time. Let's get to work.
I spent months looking for a job. I got nowhere. This helped me deal with that frustration. Things changed when I tried ZipRecruiter because it works like a free personal recruiter. ZipRecruiter sent me great jobs. I applied with a click. Some companies even invited me to apply. I started a new job last week. This still helps.
Go to ZipRecruiter.com and put ZipRecruiter to work for you. A CNN special, What's Going On? Marvin Gaye's Anthem for the Ages, Sunday at 8.
House Republicans quickly turning against Congresswoman Liz Cheney. Next week, she is likely to be tossed out of her position as the third highest ranking Republican in the House. GOP leader Kevin McCarthy called on a hot mic today saying he's lost confidence in Cheney, but she's not backing down from her criticism of Trump and his supporters for pushing the big lie of election fraud, which she calls poison to democracy. Let's see what our senior commentator, John Kasich, the former Republican governor of Ohio, thinks about that. John, good evening.
Hello, Mr. Lemon.
I've been wanting to have this conversation with you. I want to know what you think about it. She's not backing down. Why is she braver than so many other Republicans willing to stand up for the truth despite her, that really, what's going to happen with her?
Oh, well, I mean, look, what's going to happen to her is that so she won't be in the Republican leadership. So it's not like this golden ticket you got from Willy Wonka. You know, it's not that big a deal, Don, number one. Number two is that, her father's a tough guy. I mean, there probably would have been a time when you might have taken him on, but he doesn't budge. And, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And in addition to that, I've been wondering when we would have people inside that caucus who are going to stand up and say, I've had enough. And so she's doing it. And I've got a warning for them. If they want to throw her out, I guarantee you she's going to start to draw support from within that Republican caucus. It'll start being quiet at first, and then over time it will grow, and it will pose a serious challenge to the people who are now in charge. She'll form, I guess, what I would call an insurgency. And I've learned throughout my lifetime, Don, when I fought, the Pentagon on weapons purchases, or I fought George Bush for what I thought was a lousy budget. It's funny, when you stand up and take a beating, people will come around you. And I would predict that over time, she will get support in that Republican conference.
Well, you kind of answered my next question, because you said, you've been wondering when people in the caucus are going to set up. It's person. It's one person in the caucus. So if you have one person in the caucus or in the GOP, then what does that mean for the Republican Party? I mean, you even have the Wall Street Journal out with this editorial about the GOP purging Liz Cheney and then doubling down on the election law. Let me just read it, and then you can answer. Because Republicans will look foolish or worse to swing voters if they refight 2020 in 2022. So I want to talk about those swing voters, but this all goes into what exactly you were saying right now, or just before.
Well, Don, I think there's more than just one. You know, we got a guy out here, Anthony Gonzalez. You know, Trump's after him. And by the way, over the weekend, I talked to this guy named Michael Wood, who ran in that special election in Texas, got crushed. You know, I called him. One of our colleagues asked me to call him. I said, hey, you stood up, you put your chest out, you told the truth, your day will come. Now, this will not last forever. There will be an ongoing revolt. You know, they boo, Mitt Romney out there at the convention in Utah.
You have Mitt Romney, you've got Adam Kinzinger as well. They're standing up as well. Go on, sorry.
Well, there's others that voted to impeach Trump. There were 5 or 6 of them in the House, not that many. And they're being attacked, but they better hope they beat them all, because if they don't, they're going to come back. And look, I can tell you what happens when you start to have an insurgency inside of your caucus. Things become very, very tough. And the problem is, as I think the Wall Street Journal points out, they're fighting with each other rather than standing on principles about, big government and taxes and all that stuff. They don't have any time for that. And then what you said earlier about Dr. Seuss and Mr. Potato Head and all that stuff, and somebody, I don't know who it was, said, well, this could threaten the very survival of America. It's a joke. I have to completely agree with what you said. Dr. Seuss, what, are you kidding me? So, God, this will not stand.
Dr. Seuss's family and the people who run his company who decided to do that. It wasn't Democrats or liberals who did it. And the same thing with there are other examples of companies saying, this no longer represents the values of our company.
Yeah.
We're removing it from the market, or we're changing the nature of it. And then it said the Republicans blame it on Democrats and liberals because what is it? Do they not have anything else? I mean, is it?
Here's it's unbelievable. They were going to have this big conference. I don't know what they came out with. There's a million issues on healthcare, on the environment that they ought to be addressing. But here's something, Don, we have to worry about. If they use these tactics and they win the House, they're going to think they did great. I mean, think about that for a second. That's the problem. I thought they'd come to their senses sooner, but right now, they're just headed over a cliff when it comes to things like policy and putting the country first.
You're vocalizing you're vocalizing what I was saying in the open. Why? Because I'm sure there are Democrats or liberals and independents who are watching right now who are saying, why do I care about this? Like, why do I care about Trump? Why do I care about the Republican Party? You're right. If they do win, and they could, in midterms, they could win back the House, then this has consequences for everyone, not just Republicans.
There's another element here, Don, and that is when you don't have a healthy 2 parties debating ideas, the democracy loses. When all you have from Republicans now, not all Republicans, not Romney, not some people that are proposing some good ideas over in the Senate, but what you end up having is you have kind of one party rule, and that's not good. Anywhere you look in the country where it's one party involved and the other party doesn't have any ideas, we all lose. We want a healthy Republican Party, just like we wanted a healthy Democratic Party when the Republicans were dominating, because politics is a battle of ideas to improve the lives of all Americans. So we don't want them to shrivel and just spend their time on these social issues that has virtually no relevance. It just doesn't. It's out of bounds as far as I'm concerned.
Well, let me talk a little bit more about this, because this is a little bit beyond these social issues that supposedly are these great culture wars. It says a lot when an incredibly conservative lawmaker like Liz Cheney is getting squeezed out while the GOP refuses to punish a QAnon believer like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Matt Gaetz, who's under
unbelievable. Well, I mean, I think everybody has a chance to prove themselves. So, I've never been into condemnation. Look at the evidence around Gaetz. Let's get a decision made about him. On this QAnon thing, as you know, we talked about this on your show. They should have thrown her out of the conference. They should have isolated her, taken her committee away. It's just bizarre, but that's where the party is right now. And I remember when Bill Clinton came in with the Democratic Party and he said, well, we're going to move more towards the middle. And that was not easy. And so what's happened in the Republican Party is it's gone hard right on these social issues and QAnon, which is, it's hard to believe they just didn't take this away from her. And I would have done it in a second. I wouldn't even have thought about it. And now that she could become normalized, it's very, very bad. It's terrible, terrible stuff. And so there are some of us that want to argue and fight to salvage this Republican Party based on principles that go all the way back to Lincoln. But right now, they think they can rely on Mr. Potato Head to win a majority.
Well,
and then to do what with it? What are they going to do then, Don?
Well, it seems to be working with Republicans. 70% of Republicans say that, Joe Biden is not, that this election was somehow stolen and he's not the legitimate president. We have to remember 70%, that's like 25% of actually voters. So we'll see. We'll see. Thank you, John.
Don, let me tell you one last thing. When I'm out here and I talk to regular old folks, I don't hear this. So we got to separate the elite.
But somebody's voting for that, John. I know you don't hear it, but there are an awful lot of people who voted for.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. That's why I called Michael Wood, who stood up and didn't win that primary, got crushed. But at the same time, as Arnold says, he'll be back. How was that? Is that a good invitation?
Yeah, I'm going to get you. I know an acting coach.
Sometimes I really like to be on the show with you, Don. Sometimes.
This is not one of them. Thank you, John. All right, I'll see you.
All right,
so,
sir.
Liz Cheney's about to be tossed out of leadership just for saying Trump lied. We know what the so-called party leaders want, but what about the voters? That's what I was asking John. That's next.
Your business changes. The United States Postal Service is changing with it. With e-commerce that runs at the speed of now, next day and 2-day shipping nationwide, and returns right from the doorstep. It's a whole new world out there. Let's not keep it waiting.
Fungus is tough to kill, and it can spread.
It's time to start using Fungi Nail. Maximum Strength Fungi Nail is so powerful it cures and prevents fungal infection. Plus, it has aloe and tea tree oil to restore skin health. Say goodbye to toe fungus with Fungi Nail.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, hard for your family to remember. They can use less.
Sweet pills of softness.
This is soft.
Holy shit.
Excuse me. Roll it back, everybody.
Sorry. Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it. Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
If we all go, why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
You wanna know your greatest strength?
First time, look. Feel cleansing with every month has arrived. Cleanses with every morning. Rated R, now streaming only on Prime Video.
Our Confident Forever plan is possible with CFP Professional.
A CFP Professional can help you build a complete financial plan. Visit letsmakeaplan.org to find your CFP Professional.
So when in doubt, just say, let me talk to my manager.
Next, Carvana's 100% online shopping experience. Carvana lets people buy a car, get this, from their couch. Oh, how disruptive.
No salesman there to help me pick out the car I need.
But how does anyone find a car on this site without someone like us checking in?
She's a beauty.
Oh, golly.
I can help you find the color you want. That sounds nice. Let me talk to my manager.
Buy your next car 100% online with Carvana.
When you save money with Allstate, you feel like you're winning. Safe drivers save 40%. Saving is easy when you're in good hands. Allstate. Click or call for a quote today.
Hello. Hey, B-Mark. I didn't realize it would be an A-Mark and the B-Mark. Now I feel unprepared.
Lots of energy. We're sitting in chairs in an empty house.
It should be fine.
I'm hoping for a sillier future.
They got a microphone, guys.
The story of late night, Sundays at 9 on CNN.
Want to help kids get their homework done? Well, the internet connection is a good start. But kids also need computers. And sometimes the hardest thing for homework is finding a place to do it. So why not hook community centers up with Wi-Fi for kids like us and all the amazing things we're going to learn?
Over the next 10 years, Comcast is committing $1 billion to reach 50 million low-income Americans with the tools and resources they need to be ready for anything.
I hope you're ready. We are.
Non-valvular AFib can mean a lifetime of blood thinners. And if you are troubled by falls and bleeds, worry follows you everywhere. Over 150,000 people have left blood thinners behind with Watchman. It's a one-time, minimally invasive procedure that reduces stroke risk and bleeding worry
Hello.
for life. Watchman.
So what did I just write on Facebook? What's for dinner? And what am I upset about besides the spineless members of Congress and others supporting the big lie and going after people who stand up to them? Liz Cheney, Mitt Romney, while giving a pass to Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz. It is disgusting. I didn't add, a lot of these right-wing Republicans are born-again Christians that are supposed to have some religious values, and they're fucking hypocrites. Maybe I'll add that to my Facebook post. What's for dinner? Salt and pepper kettle chips, mint Milanos, Coca-Cola, and ice cream. And maybe later I'll tell you why I'm upset.
Liz Cheney's future and the leadership of the Republican Party clearly in doubt tonight. A vote on her future and her replacement is expected as soon as next Wednesday. Brendan Buck is here. Brendan is the former top aide to Paul Ryan and John Boehner while they were House speakers. And Republican strategist Sarah Longwell here as well. Good evening to both of you. Thank you so much for joining. So, Brendan, Cheney is not backing down. She is forcing everyone to confront all of this, even if it means losing her leadership role. You've worked as a top aide to both Paul Ryan, John Boehner. What do you think about what she's doing and the impact it's going to have on the party?
Well, it appears at this point that she knows that her days are numbered. I can't read any other way into this, that she knows that there's going to be a vote called next week, and I think she realizes she's probably no longer a good fit. But she's not going to make this easy on them. And what I love about what she's doing is she's not going into hyperbole or saying crazy things about Donald Trump. She's simply saying clearly, obviously true things. It just makes her colleagues squirm, and it makes them uncomfortable, and she's making them confront uncomfortable truths, not just about Donald Trump, but about themselves. And I think that's where this is really coming to a head. It's not that she's criticizing Donald Trump. It's that she's making them confront the role that they all played leading up to January 6th, what they said about the election being stolen. Everybody in the House Republican Conference, say maybe 10 people, want to move on from this. They want to forget about it. They want to whitewash it happened. They don't want to have to answer these questions or have this hanging over Donald Trump's head if he runs again. So when she's making it uncomfortable for them, you can't be a leader like that when you're basically making life hell for your own members. So I understand why she thinks it's untenable, and I appreciate that she's going down swinging.
Well, Sarah, given what Brendan said, I don't think he's wrong about that. Then what gives, and how much longer do you, I guess they can do it indefinitely, but I'll still pose the question to you. Can you continue to delude yourself into lies and pretend it's reality? Or better question, how much longer can you continue to shape your own reality?
Well, it really comes down to the voters. I mean, I have spent the last couple of months talking to Trump voters, and the fact is, they believe the lie. They believe the election was fraudulent. They believe that the insurrection on January 6th was no big deal. These voters, they want to move on from the Mitt Romneys and the Liz Cheneys, and frankly, from the party that Brendan and I joined and worked for. I mean, it's just not where the voters are anymore. They believe these lies. The reason the politicians are acting this way is because they believe that the voters want them to. They believe that the people who are going to put them in office want to engage in grievance politics, and they do. Look, when I talk to these voters, it is culture war all the way down. Even when I talk to them and I say, what are you for? What do you want out of a politician? They have a difficult time articulating what it is they're for, but they're excellent at articulating what they're against. And so what they want are politicians who are going to go in and fight the media. They're going to fight the Democrats. And that's what they liked about Donald Trump. Even if they didn't care for him entirely personally, they liked that he was going to go beat up on their enemies. And that's what they're looking for going forward. And somebody like Liz Cheney, who's a rock-ribbed conservative and a real policy person, that's just not what interests for base voters at this point.
Is it a feedback loop, or, I guess the conventional wisdom would be that
What?
The voters believe it because
Why did that just jump?
I called anything could happen. I
tell you.
Well, I think our party does have to be careful.
Segregation is
people
TV is still messed up.
Achieving that.
just before.
They think they can.
150,000 people have left.
which means that more people believe that there's credibility to the allegations that are chaotic really.
But our leaders say
For him entirely personally, they like what it is they're for, but they're excellent at articulating what they're against. And so what they want are politicians who are going to go in and fight the media. They're going to fight the Democrats. And that's what they liked about Donald Trump. Even if they didn't care for him entirely personally, they liked that he was going to go beat up on their enemies. And that's what they're looking for going forward. And somebody like Liz Cheney, who's a Rockridge conservative and a real policy person, that's just not what interests for base voters at this point.
Is it a feedback loop, or, I guess the conventional wisdom would be that the voters believe it because the leaders say it. Donald Trump says it. Kevin McCarthy or Josh Hawley or whoever it is. I don't know what's his name. I forget. Matt Gaetz or whatever, because they say it. But are they just a mirror of the voters? Maybe the voters are saying it and they're just a reflection of it, meaning the leaders, Sarah? Or is it just a giant feedback loop?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. It's a symbiotic relationship, right? The voters demand more intensity from their engage in grievance politics. And they do look, when I talk to these voters, it is culture war all the way down. Even when I talk to them and I say, what do you, it's just not, it was no big deal. These voters, they want to move on from the Mitt Romneys and the Liz Cheneys, and frankly, from the party that Brendan and I joined and worked for. It's just not where the voters are anymore. They believe these lies. The reason the politicians are acting this way is because they believe that the voters want them to. They believe that the people who are going to put them in office want to engage in grievance politics. And they do look, when I talk to these voters, it is culture war all the way down. Even when I talk to them and I say, what are you for? What do you want out of a politician? They have a typical time articulating what it is they're for, but they're excellent at articulating what they're against. And so what they want are politicians who are going to go in and fight the media. They're going to fight the Democrats. And that's what they liked about Donald Trump. Even if they didn't care for him entirely personally, they liked that he was going to go beat up on their enemies. And that's what they're looking for going forward. Somebody like Liz Cheney, who's a Rockridge conservative and a real policy person, that's just not what interests for base voters at this point.
Is it a feedback loop, or, I guess the conventional wisdom would be that the voters believe it because the leaders say it. Donald Trump says it. Kevin McCarthy or Josh Hawley or whoever it is. I don't know what's his name. I forget. Matt Gaetz or whatever, because they say it. But are they just a mirror of the voters? Maybe the voters are saying it and they're just a reflection of it, meaning the leaders, Sarah? Or is it just a giant feedback loop?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. It's a symbiotic relationship, right? The voters demand more intensity from their elected officials. Some of them are angry about the election and think that it was stolen. And so the elected officials start saying that it was stolen, which means that more people believe that there's credibility to the allegations that it was stolen, and it kind of feeds off of each other. And so, yeah, it's exactly right. There's this feedback loop that is toxifying the Republican information and political stream that is making it less of a political party and more of a cult.
But let me add.
Hi, Brendan. Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think?
I think it's important to appreciate that Donald Trump changed the way a lot of Republican elected officials think. And they've learned lessons from him that I think they're all trying to take. And that is that they believe now there is a path to winning elections where you never have to worry about anybody other than base Republican voters. And that's a really big change. There was, you always talk about you got to at least win a little bit of the middle. And I think what Donald Trump proved to some of them is that if you just never apologize for anything, you pick fights and you just show that you are fighting hard, you can turn out enough Republicans. And what that's done is basically the entire party has turned away from whether you call it the middle or you call it traditional Republicans, and they're just throwing them overboard because they think there is a path ahead. And for them, it's comfortable. I don't ever have to try to appease anybody in the middle. I can just play hard right politics all the time, and there's a winning path there. I think that's what they think works now. I think it's very short-sighted and probably not going to prove not to work in the long term, but that is what they've internalized from Donald Trump winning first time and from having a better than expected outcome in the House last time.
But Brendan, it's a shrinking party, and that's why all these laws that they're trying to pass around the country to restrict voting rights and gerrymandering and all of that is because they realize without doing that they can't win. The base is shrinking. That base is they're not inviting anybody into. It's a small tent. It's not a big tent.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the tragedies of what's happening here with Liz Cheney. We're telling the country that they are a party that doesn't welcome what I call traditional Republicans anymore.
Yeah.
This is a culture war party. Obviously, it's a Trump party, and those people who still believe in conservative ideas but aren't comfortable with Donald Trump. This isn't a place for you, and that's a really, I think, tough signal to send if you think that you're going to have a really workable long-term majority.
Brendan, Sarah, great conversation. Thank you. I'll have you back soon. I'll see you later. So we have some breaking news tonight.
Clearly, my ADD is bad tonight because I.
Into lies and pretend it's reality. Or better question: how much longer can you continue to shape your own reality?
Well, look, it really comes down to the voters. I mean, I have spent the last couple of months talking to Trump voters, and the fact is, they believe the lie. They believe the election was fraudulent. They believe that the insurrection on January 6th was no big deal. These voters, they want to move on from the Mitt Romneys and the Liz Cheneys, and frankly, from the party that Brendan and I joined and worked for. I mean, it's just not where the voters are anymore. They believe these lies. The reason the politicians are acting this way is because they believe that the voters want them to. They believe that the people who are going to put them in office want to engage in grievance politics. And they do. Look, when I talk to these voters, it is culture war all the way down. Even when I talk to them and I say, what are you for? What do you want out of a politician? They have a typical time articulating what it is they're for, but they're excellent at articulating what they're against. And so what they want are politicians who are going to go in and fight the media. They're going to fight the Democrats. And that's what they liked about Donald Trump. Even if they didn't care for him entirely personally, they liked that he was going to go beat up on their enemies. And that's what they're looking for going forward. Somebody like Liz Cheney, who's a Rockridge conservative and a real policy person, that's just not what interests for base voters at this point.
Is it a feedback loop, or I guess the conventional wisdom would be that the voters believe it because the leaders say it. Donald Trump says it. Kevin McCarthy or Josh Hawley or whoever it is. I don't know what's his name. I forget. Matt Gaetz or whatever, because they say it. But are they just a mirror of the voters? Maybe the voters are saying it and they're just a reflection of it, meaning the leaders, Sarah? Or is it just a giant feedback loop?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. It's a symbiotic relationship, right? The voters demand more intensity from their elected officials. Some of them are angry about the election and think that it was stolen. And so the elected officials start saying that it was stolen, which means that more people believe that there's credibility to the allegations that it was stolen, and it kind of feeds off of each other. And so, yeah, it's exactly right. There's this feedback loop that is toxifying the Republican information and political stream that is making it less of a political party and more of a cult.
But let me add.
Hi, Brendan. Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think?
I think it's important to appreciate that Donald Trump changed the way a lot of Republican elected officials think. And they've learned lessons from him that I think they're all trying to take. And that is that they believe now there is a path to winning elections where you never have to worry about anybody other than base Republican voters. And that's a really big change. There was, you always talk about you got to at least win a little bit of the middle. And I think what Donald Trump proved to some of them is that if you just never apologize for anything, you pick fights, and you just show that you are fighting hard, you can turn out enough Republicans. And what that's done is basically the entire party has turned away from whether you call it the middle or you call it traditional Republicans, and they're just throwing them overboard because they think there is a path ahead. And for them, it's comfortable. I don't ever have to try to appease anybody in the middle. I can just play hard right politics all the time, and there's a winning path there. I think that's what they think works now. I think it's very short-sighted and probably not going to prove not to work in the long term, but that is what they've internalized from Donald Trump winning the first time and from having a better than expected outcome in the House last time.
But Brendan, it's a shrinking party, and that's why all these laws that they're trying to pass around the country to restrict voting rights and gerrymandering and all of that is because they realize without doing that they can't win. The base is shrinking. That base is they're not inviting anybody into a small tent. It's not a big tent.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the tragedies of what's happening here with Liz Cheney. We're telling the country as that we are a party that doesn't welcome what I call traditional Republicans anymore.
Yeah.
This is a culture war party. Obviously, it's a Trump party, and those people who still believe in conservative ideas but aren't comfortable with Donald Trump. This isn't the place for you, and that's a really, I think, tough signal to send if you think that you're going to have a really workable long-term majority.
Brendan, Sarah, great conversation. Thank you. I'll have you back soon. I'll see you later.
Thanks.
So we have some breaking news tonight to tell you about. Derek Chauvin's attorney filing a motion for a new trial. Will he get one? Stay with us.
As your business changes, the United States Postal Service is changing with it. With e-commerce that runs at the speed of now, next day and 2-day shipping nationwide, and returns right from the doorstep. It's a whole new world out there. Let's not keep it waiting.
Experience matters. For over 145 years, more families trust ADT for timeless protection and 24/7 peace of mind. ADT, real protection.
You had your kitchen remodeled, made your driveway the envy of your neighborhood, re-shingled the roof just in time for a meteor shower, treated yourself to the ultimate backyard upgrade, and removed a truly shocking amount of cat hair from your living room, all thanks to the top pros you found on Angie. Get $20 off your first home project at Angie.com today. Make your home an Angie home. Angie, and done.
I've been on Noom since June and I've lost 40 pounds.
Noom made me realize that I never really learned how to eat right.
It gets results by teaching you a lot about your own eating habits.
Noom makes me eat healthier because I'm much more aware and mindful of what I'm putting into my body.
Once I understood why I was making those choices, it was easy for me to change those habits, and weight loss came naturally after that.
I lost 27 pounds and I feel like I got my life back.
Visit Noom.com and lose the weight for good.
Make your side hustle your official hustle. Start your business and keep it running with LegalZoom. LegalZoom, let's make it official.
All the parts that you need to keep her on the road. For work, for school, everywhere you go. Sometimes they can be hard to find. Right now's got the parts for whatever you try. If you want that work truck, you just take some big bucks. All the parts you're looking for delivered to your front door. All the parts you're a car will never be like. All the parts you're a car will never be like. Cadillac.com.
Think about what you could think about when you're not thinking about weeds.
Oh, I forgot to check the Tuesday app for, I think it's there till 1 a.m. Let me check. The T-Mobile Tuesdays app.
Where's the proof?
That's how the notifications remind me to do that.
Ooh, iced tea.
Kill weeds, not the lawn, with Roundup for Lawns products.
Numbers don't lie. This is the plain truth. And behind these truths are important American stories.
The Talk. United States of America with Rick Malbell. WZ10 on CNN.
Welcome to the feed. I'm ready to have a real exchange with the men I sleep with. It's less about what people need and more about what they want.
I've really enjoyed getting to know you.
Look, if your wireless carrier was a guy, you'd leave him tomorrow. Not very flexible. Not great at saving.
I'm just saving all the offers in case I want to use them.
Now they have unlimited for just $30 a month. $30. You're number one in customer satisfaction.
His number deleted.
Deleting. So great.
Which Adidas kicks put a spring in your step? I don't know.
5G included for $30 on the nation's fastest, most reliable network.
Well, let's get right into the news. Nothing could be funnier than that.
Derek Chauvin's lawyer filing a motion for a new trial 2 weeks after the former Minneapolis police officer was convicted of murder in George Floyd. The motion claiming multiple reasons, including the impact of publicity, the refusal to change the trial's location, failure to sequester the jury, and prosecutorial and jury misconduct. That, as one of the jurors is explaining his decision to participate in last year's March on Washington rally. After this picture comes surface online, it shows juror Brandon Mitchell wearing a Black Lives Matter cap and a shirt that says, "Get your knee off our necks." So joining me now, CNN's senior legal analyst, Ellie Honig. Ellie, good evening to you. Let me read this and then we'll have a broader discussion. Prospective jurors were given questionnaires before selection. And I just want to read two questions from that first. Did you or someone else close to you participate in any of the demonstrations or marches against police brutality that took place in Minneapolis after George Floyd's death?
He said no. It wasn't in Minneapolis.
The march he was at was in Washington. Second, other than what you've already described above, have you or anyone close to you participated in protests about police use of force or police brutality? He answered no. So are these answers now in question because of that photo?
Yeah, Don, they will be in question. If I'm the prosecutor in this case, I'm taking this seriously, but I'm not losing sleep. Here's why. First of all, virtually every defendant who gets convicted at trial asks for a new trial and then appeals. And very, very few of those arguments succeed because it is a big deal for a judge to throw out a jury verdict. Now, in this case, the defense is going to argue why. He said he'd never been part of a protest of police violence. There's a photo of him in Washington, D.C. But I think the prosecution has a strong comeback here, which is that was a commemoration of Martin Luther King. That doesn't make it a protest of police violence or a BLM gathering. And this juror, in his questioning, basically said all of this elsewhere. He said he believes Black lives should be protected. He does not want police abusing Black people unnecessarily. He said he thought the other three officers should have intervened to stop Derek Chauvin. So if I'm a prosecutor, I'm arguing there's nothing new here, especially nothing new that would require overthrowing this verdict.
Okay, so this is when I said I want to read this as, because just because someone, or don't jurors come from the community, they make up the community, and they all come with different lens and their experiences in life. So that's a jury of your peers. But the other thing is, because the prosecution or the defense, depending on the verdict or whatever, depending on the circumstances, didn't do a good job at voir dire, does that mean a case should be thrown out?
No, exactly right. These jurors were vetted like no jury pool I have ever seen. They filled out extensive questionnaires. They were questioned in person. And again, if the juror had just straight up lied about something material, and there was no way the parties could have understood what he was really all about, there might be an issue there. But when you look at the totality, all the circumstances here, it's just not the case. Going to a Martin Luther King commemoration is not necessarily the same thing as protesting police for use of force. And this juror made clear that he had a problem with that. The defense questioned him. They could have removed him, by the way, Don. They had 4 strikes to remove jurors that they didn't use. So they questioned him. Yep, they questioned him to their heart's content, and they said, we're fine.
Ellie Honig, always a pleasure, sir. Thank you. Send me that tie. I like it.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you very much. I made lots of claims about dead people voting. Well, check this. We found a case of voter fraud, and the guy behind it voted for Trump.
You want to see something all electric? We're driving it everywhere. We are Generation E. All down. It's a battery that charges fast. Has more energy than me. We want smart, clean, and safe. And powerful.
You could take your ulcerative colitis treatment in a different direction. Talk to your doctor about Xeljanz, a pill, not an injection or infusion, for adults with moderate to severe ulcerative colitis when a certain medicine did not help enough. Xeljanz is the first and only FDA-approved pill.
So they claimed what? The music in an ad?
Improve the appearance.
Your video matches 1 minute and 37 seconds of music owned by Warner Music Group Rights Management. 4 countries: Cuba, Iran, North Korea, and Syria. What exactly did they flag?
Serious, sometimes fatal infections, cancer, including lymphoma, and blood clots have happened. Taking a higher than recommended dose of Xeljanz for RA may increase risk of death. Tears in the stomach or intestine, and serious allergic reactions have happened. You could take your UC treatment in a different direction. Ask your gastroenterologist about Xeljanz.
New Cetaphil Deep Hydration.
Jumped by Van Halen. Was what? Was it in an ad? What? It's ridiculous. They'll even flag you for music in the background if it's playing outside, from a speaker outside of business. Is anyone from Cuba, Iran, North Korea, or Syria even watching my broadcast today?
If your heart rate variability is 50 and your body temperature is normal,
If your breathing rate is optimal, let you know
Most likely guide on sleep, readiness, and activity. Aura. Know why you feel how you feel.
As your business changes, the United States Postal Service is changing with it. With e-commerce that runs at the speed of now, next day and 2-day shipping nationwide, and returns right from the doorstep. It's a whole new
Is it talking about the one that I'm on right now, or the one from an hour ago?
We offer safe and easy ways to file with a skilled tax pro. Securely drop off your documents, have them picked up, or upload them and work with a tax pro online from home. Safe and easy ways to file that work around you. When you have metastatic breast cancer,
I don't even know what this is.
it means we grab a hold of what matters. We sweat the details, ask for what we want, get what we need, and we need more time. So we want Kisqali, living longer than possible, including with
It's
Kisqali.
from March 26th. I don't care. Just post muted. I don't even know what it is.
Kisqali can cause lung problems or an abnormal heartbeat, which can lead to death. It can cause serious skin reactions, liver problems, and low white blood cell counts that may result in severe infections. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including breathing problems, cough, chest pain, a change in your heartbeat, dizziness, yellowing of the skin or eyes, dark urine, tiredness, loss of appetite, abdomen pain, bleeding, bruising, fever, jolts, or other symptoms of an infection, a severe or worsening rash, are or plan to become pregnant or breastfeeding. Avoid grapefruit during treatment. Kisqali is not approved for use with tamoxifen. It's our time for more time. We asked for Kisqali. Ask your doctor about living longer with Kisqali.
We've all got something in our closet we can sell. Things you don't love, sneakers not your style anymore, jacket that's just not your color. Well, on Poshmark, you can put them up for sale in seconds. Just take a photo, set your price, and turn your closet into cash. Buy and sell from home with the Poshmark app.
I want you to listen up to this. Take this. A Pennsylvania man has been sentenced to 5 years probation for voting as a dead person in the 2020 election. 70-year-old Bruce Bartman pleaded guilty for casting a vote on behalf of his deceased mother in an effort to re-elect President Donald Trump. All that talk of voter fraud by the former president and one of his supporters is now guilty of doing it. Bartman also registered his deceased mother-in-law as a Republican, but did not submit her ballot. The man's lawyer telling CNN that his client accepts responsibility, adding that Bartman had been isolated at home because of the pandemic and was misled by, quote, propaganda and statements that were made about voter fraud. Now, keep in mind, Bartman's sentence, 5 years probation, because I want to remind you of a different case CNN has covered. That's the case of Crystal Mason, a Black woman who is fighting a 5-year prison sentence for voting illegally in the 2016 election. Mason says she did not know her status as a felon on release made her ineligible to cast a ballot. She says if she had known that, she would not have submitted a provisional ballot.
You had no inclination from anyone at that polling station that there were consequences if you were ineligible to vote and you voted on a provisional ballot?
No, not at all. I had no idea. There's no way that I would have attempted to vote, to leave my children, to lose my job, to go through what I'm going through right now. There's no way that I would have attempted to try to vote.
Her lawyers have disputed whether it's fair to say she even voted at all in 2016 because her provisional ballot was rejected and never tallied. Crystal Mason is out on bond right now, and her case is set to be heard by the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals in the next few months. A Black woman facing 5 years in prison for a vote that was never tallied. Meanwhile, a white man knowingly votes as his dead mother. He gets 5 years probation. Two systems of justice in this country. That's a pretty clear-cut case. A top Republican is about to be stripped from her leadership, all because she won't lie for Donald Trump. Stay with us.
Hi, sis. You're late. That's not late. You're not be late.
There's a road right there. That's a cat. We just hold 90 seconds.
Seriously?
It's me, it's Whiskers.
What happened to you? Whose cat is that?
It's a long story.
Whiskers, there you are. Subaru Crosstrek, the adventurous SUV for adventurous people. Love is what makes Subaru, Subaru.
As your business changes, the United States Postal Service is changing with it. With e-commerce that runs at the speed of now, next day and 2-day shipping nationwide, and returns right from the doorstep. It's a whole new world out there. Let's not keep it waiting.
Think about what you could think about when you're not thinking about weeds.
Aliens are real, all right. There's just too much evidence. But ghosts, not so much. I mean, where's the proof? Show me the data. Ice-T.
Kill weeds, not the lawn, with Roundup for Lawns products.
Our Continent Forever plan is possible with a CFP professional.
CFP Professional will help you build a complete financial plan. Visit letsmakeaplan.org to find your CFP professional.
When you save money with Allstate, you feel like you're winning. Safe drivers save 40%. Saving is easy when you're in good hands. Allstate. Click or call for a quote today.
Lawn, mowed, cabinet, handle, bathroom, tile, air, conditioning, mountain, parking, your project, finish. Put a little help in Angie. Get $20 off your first month at Angie.com today. Make your home an Angie. And done.
Let's hang out for a little bit, grab a juice, grab a glass of wine, get your favorite Tito's, whatever drink it is that you're having. Enjoy me, but never so big.
Years later, why is it an anthem for a generation? A CNN special, What's Going On? Sunday at 8.
John Dalziger ate it and mean a lifetime of blood thinners.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Never Settle. That's right. It's the show we give you the best advice and the tips on how to build your dream. Go after that passion, make it happen. We give you the marketing and the monetization with the best experts in the culture right here on the show. Today, what we got on deck? What? This is Nikki S. That's right. Nikki S. is in the building. My personal friend, Guru. You're like my personal friend, Guru. You know that?
Girls really know how to put your Wi-Fi to work. Whether it's work, works for me, school work, or a workout.
They've got Xfinity.
Wait, Governor Brown moves 15 Oregon counties from
It's more than enough to keep everyone
extreme
working.
back to high
Can your
risk.
internet
Which
do that?
counties?
This is work. This is hard.
Now Xfinity delivers Wi-Fi speed faster than a gig. That means
Hold
you'll
on a
have speed over
second.
Wi-Fi to power.
On Friday, 15 Oregon counties will move from extreme risk for coronavirus back to the state's high-risk category after health officials saw a drop in hospitalizations from COVID-19. Governor Brown made the announcement Tuesday, nearly a week after saying those 15 Oregon counties would be bumped to the extreme risk level within the state's public health framework to slow the spread of coronavirus. Let me be clear, across the state, COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations are still high, and Oregon is not out of the woods yet, Brown said. However, we have met the hospitalization metric established by our health experts for counties to return to the high risk. Oregon officials, restrictions currently the same for all regardless of vaccination. Two other counties, Douglas and Malheur, were also shifted to high risk from the moderate category. Starting Friday, 24 Oregon counties will be at high risk, 4 will be at moderate risk, and 8 will be at lower risk. High risk. Clackamas, move from extreme. Multnomah, move from extreme. Lower risk, moderate risk. The governor announced during a press conference last week that she has transitioned to weekly risk level updates for the next 3 weeks as a way to open the economy faster. Under the state's extreme risk level, restaurants were limited to outdoor dining only. Also puts limits on gyms, theaters, and other similar businesses. Based on today's numbers, I'm keeping my commitment to Oregonians. Beginning Friday, all counties in extreme risk will return to high risk. With Oregonians continuing to get vaccinated each week, my expectation is that we will not return to extreme risk again for the duration of this pandemic. I know I skipped a paragraph, I'll go back. I know this will be relief to many across the state. However, the lifting of extreme risk health and safety measures comes with great personal responsibility for us all. Oregonians continue to keep up their guard, follow high-risk health and safety measures, and get vaccinated as fast as possible. We should see our COVID-19 case and hospitalization rates decline. I'd like to thank Oregonians for taking this surge seriously for the last several weeks. It's because of you that our hospitals have not been overwhelmed. Today, we also received the welcome news from the Biden-Harris administration that they will be reallocating unused vaccines to the states that need them. Oregon will ask for the maximum allowed, which will help us get shots in arms faster. Vaccinations are still our best path to protecting our loved ones and staying on track to fully reopen our economy by the end of June. All right, let me see the paragraph. Sorry, my vision's blurry at the moment. Hope you're feeling better today. Well, yes and no. This is when Barbara died and screwed everyone over 4 years ago. She died peacefully in her sleep. Everyone else was left to deal with the mess. So, how long have you been here? I just saw your comment. Thank you for coming. And let me go back and did you hear all of what I just read? I missed one paragraph. Statement from Oregon Governor Brown. Let me be clear, across the state, COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations are still high. And Oregon is not out of the woods yet. However, we have met the hospitalization metric established by our health experts for counties to return to high risk. From the beginning, I've said that returning counties to the extreme risk level was about preserving hospital capacity and saving lives. With our statewide hospitalization rate stabilizing. Our hospitals should have the capacity to continue treating patients with severe cases of COVID-19 and other serious medical conditions in the coming weeks. All right. What are they going to do about that bar in Gresham that never closed? Are they going to fine them? All right. Let me see these comments. Did I, how, about 4 minutes ago. Okay. Feeling better. I'm actually feeling nauseous because I ate potato chips for dinner. I thought of adding some ice cream to that. Maybe I should eat an RX bar, which at least has 2 eggs in it. How's your day going? I'm gonna unmute this. Some coconut oil on the outside of my eyes because they're so dry.
House full of devices. And more.
I don't even know what I was looking at when I came across that.
United Chiefs of America with Enrique Malca. Sundays at 10 on CNN.
Closed captioning brought to you by Mesobook.com.
We proudly help veterans with mesothelioma. Call for a free book. 1-800-822-0400 or go to mesobook.com. House Republicans turning on Congresswoman Liz Cheney, who's refusing to back down from criticizing Donald Trump's big lie of election fraud. House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy caught on a...
Okay, took my glasses off. Now my vision's even blurrier. Let me see what you said. You had beans and then a peanut butter and honey sandwich. What kind of beans? I don't know what I should do. I think I forgot to take my allergy medicine. I think I was allowed to take it half an hour ago. Let me look that up.
Hot Mike saying he's lost confidence in her and he's likely to be ousted from her leadership position next week. Facebook's independent oversight board announcing tomorrow whether Trump's suspension from Facebook will be upheld or
they should kick his ass to the curb permanently.
The administration is ready to start vaccinating 12 to 15-year-olds as soon as the FDA authorizes Pfizer's COVID vaccine for that age group, which is expected early next week. Joining me now, Mark McKinnon. He is the former advisor to George W. Bush and John McCain and the executive producer of The Circus and CNN political commentator Amanda Carpenter as well. Good evening to both of you. Mark, you first.
15 bean soup.
Are telling CNN
the beef roast.
For Liz Cheney. She could be replaced as early as next week by Trump loyalist Elise Stefanik. So basically, if you aren't willing to lie for Trump, you're out of Republican leadership.
Pretty much.
Out of the party.
Yeah, Don. It just strikes me that the entire Republican Party is gotten on the Titanic and is going to crash on the iceberg of the big lie. If you don't lie, and if you stand up for the truth, then you get punished. I mean, this is a party that is promoting Marjorie Taylor Laserbeam, who makes up stories about satellites starting forest fires, and punishes Liz Cheney for telling the obvious truth. So, I mean, to me, what's happening then is you only have people left who support the big lie, and the party then becomes branded
2 days. Wow.
as the party of the big lie. And so that's what everybody's gonna have to live with. And what strikes me also is that the reason they're really punishing Liz Cheney is they know the truth. I mean, Ted Cruz yesterday, 5 years ago, was the anniversary when he said that Trump's a pathological liar. He doesn't know the difference between truth and lies. Lindsey Graham said the same thing. They know. They know. So what they don't like about Liz Cheney is she is reminding them of people that people can have a conscience.
Yeah. So you mean there's no Jewish space lasers? My goodness, I thought that was right. All right. So you just mentioned Ted Cruz, and Amanda, check out. This is a picture of Ted Cruz. Who's your former boss, by the way? He tweeted the message. Had a great dinner tonight with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago. He is in great spirits. We spent the evening talking about working together to retake the House and Senate in 2022.
You're such a fucking hypocrite.
So kissing the ring and a picture to prove it?
I mean, I guess the bright side is that Heidi wasn't there for this dinner. I'm trying to find a silver lining here. Here's the thing. There's a lot of Republicans, even people who I think mean well. You know, let's take the editors of the Wall Street Journal, for example. They had an editorial out today. I heard you talking about at the top of the last hour, talking about why a purge of Liz Cheney would be bad. Okay, but then you read the piece
And they kind of say, well, you know, it would have been better if she would have been quiet about things. But then they turn around and say, but in order to win and expand the party, Republicans have to speak truth to voters. Excuse me? What are you talking about? This confrontation is unavoidable. Ted Cruz and everyone else is running down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring because they hope somehow that Donald Trump is going to serve them the nomination on a silver platter next to their hamburgers and Diet Cokes and ice creams. It is delusional. And somehow they all tell themselves, well, if we just play this just right, we'll be able to move on from Trump. If you just don't make him mad. That is not going to happen. Trump and the truth are incompatible. You will never move on from the insurrection and the election lies until you move on from Trump. And what Kevin McCarthy is doing, he is actually ensuring that 2022 midterms will be another referendum on Trump because the election lies are not over. Look at what is happening in Arizona. They have a circus of an audit where you want to talk about an election integrity. They're handing over private ballots to investigative firms that nobody has any oversight over. Reporters can't go there and watch anything. And what do you think they're going to come up with that story? Something custom made for OANN so Donald Trump can come out and say, look, I really won this time. And then we're going to all go through this one more time.
This is such fucking bullshit, and I'm so sick of it.
Thanks for cheering me up, Amanda. I appreciate that. I mean, that is, Mark, is Amanda right, though? Because I'm thinking of, like, you know, a Twilight Zone episode or, you know, some science fiction Don't Wake the Sleeping Giant where he's like, because then he wakes up and he's like, you know, and then he's like, don't mess with them. Is that what's happening? I mean, or do they, I just had someone on and they said it's a feedback loop. It's a symbiotic relationship. They don't want to wake the sleeping giant, but they need the sleeping giant.
The lack of leadership is just stunning. And it's like the entire Republican conference now needs a final transplant. You know, I saw that you talked about Josh Hawley earlier, another Republican senator, who was talking about why he voted against confirming the outcome of the election. And he said, well, I'm just voicing the concerns of my constituents. Well, the reason his constituents had concerns is because Donald Trump lied to his constituents about the election. So if Josh Hawley had been a leader, he would have explained to his constituents that the president of the United States and the leader of his party had lied to them. So just voicing the concerns of his constituents means he's just voicing the concerns of the president who lied to them.
Amanda, I want to play this for you. This is Kevin McCarthy, what he's saying about Liz Cheney.
I have heard from members concerned about her ability to carry out the job as conference chair, to carry out the message. We all need to be working as one if we're able to win the majority. Remember, majorities are not given, they are earned. And that's about the message about going forward.
What message is he talking about? Does the party have a message, Amanda?
They're all a bunch of fucking liars.
Really. I mean, Liz Cheney has not changed a word of what she's been saying about the insurrection since it happened. She has stood very firm. The only thing that changed since the last vote where the conference voted to keep her is that people mouthed off to Kevin McCarthy, people named Donald Trump, because Kevin McCarthy is not, he's a leader in name only. And the way this is going, I mean, he's never going to be good enough for Donald Trump, right? Mike Pence wasn't good enough for Donald Trump. They wanted to hang him. And so you can get rid of Liz Cheney, but this isn't going to be over. I mean, you might as well give the gavel to Matt Gaetz if you're not going to stand up or draw any kind of line in the sand. I mean, this is never going to end. The confrontation, if you want to get away from this, has to be had. And now there's a chance to have it. I mean, I am somewhat hopeful here because I look at someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene who can raise $3 million. We all say, wow. You know what? I bet if you cut Liz Cheney loose, she can raise a heck of a lot more than that.
We'll see. Thank you both. I hope you liked my sleeping giant impersonation. All right, thank you very much. I'll see you soon. I want to bring in now Democratic Congressman Jason Crow of Colorado. Congressman, thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us. The Republican Party is all in on this big lie, attacking anyone who admits the truth about the election and the insurrection. How does this affect you and the Democrats and the ability for Democrats to function? I think that's a very, very important question.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Don. Well, you just were talking about a different side of the same coin here, right? The coin is that This is no longer the Republican Party as we used to know it, that I grew up around. I was raised in a Republican conservative family. This is the party of Donald Trump. And whether it's people trying to sweep the big lie and insurrection under the rug and say that it didn't really happen, or people are misbelieving what happened, or whether they're trying to muffle Liz Cheney, it's all part of the same course of conduct. Now, how it impacts us is, we just have to tell the truth and continue to do our work. And we have to also make sure that the American people don't forget about what did happen. We are less than 4 months out from an insurrection against our democracy, from rioters actually taking over the U.S. Capitol, from a police officer being killed and 140 others being brutally beaten. I am not going to let people forget that, because we have to have accountability, we have to have truth in order for our country to reconcile.
Are you able, though, you said you just have to continue to tell the truth and do your work. Listen, the truth is under assault. People don't know what to believe right now, at least some, right? Obviously, because many are believing the big lie. But are you able to do your work in this environment, especially, when there is, especially in the Senate, where there's not, there's a majority, but it's very slim. Are you really able to get anything accomplished with the obstructionists on the other side?
Well, we passed the American Rescue Plan. I don't think we can talk about that too much, frankly, and I don't think we can overstate how important that is and how transformational it is, from ending child poverty, by extending minimum income tax credit, to reopening schools, to getting businesses open safely, to extending unemployment insurance, so many other important elements to it. We got that done. And come July, August, September, as people start to safely go back to schools, to get more shots in arms, as we actually govern, people will see that, right? And I've long believed that the antidote to Donald Trump is not talking about Donald Trump, it's not trying to out-tweet him, it's not trying to come up with a better burn. It's just a government. It's just a lead. And people will see that.
Well, I'm going to talk to you in a moment, Kara Swisher, about what happens with Facebook, and also, what deplatforming Donald Trump or what have you, to see what happens next. But I want to ask you about this, how dangerous it is trying to recast the truth of what happened on January 6th. I had the honor of interviewing two of the heroes who protected the Capitol from insurrection: DC Metro Police Officer Michael Fanone and Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn. This is how they described January 6th. Watch this.
And I experienced the most brutal, savage, hand-to-hand combat of my entire life, let alone my policing career, which spans almost 2 decades. I want people to understand that, thousands of rioters came to the Capitol hell-bent on violence and destruction and murder. Those people, the terrorists there on the 6th, they were there to cause harm, and they came prepared for a fight, and they hurt us physically and emotionally.
You understand their fear. This picture shows you confronting your colleagues as you did from the rioters in the House gallery. What is it like to hear your colleagues discounting what you experienced that day?
It's tough. There's just no other way to put it. There was a moment there where I called my wife and I told her that I loved her, and to tell the kids that I loved them, as we were trapped in the House gallery, surrounded by the mob. I didn't know whether I'd make it out. I thought for sure I'd have to fight my way out. That was a tough situation, and certainly Officer Fanone, those who were in the gallery with me know what happened. We remember what happened pretty clearly. There's no doubt about it. It was a brutal, terrible day. It's important that we tell the history of that, and I have a bill called the Capitol Remembrance Act that would actually erect a permanent exhibit that would tell a historically accurate account of what happened, because it's important we preserve history. But let's not forget the other really important element to this. This isn't an exercise in the integrity of history. We have an ongoing and growing domestic extremism movement in America. It's growing. These extremists, these conspiracy theorists, these militia members, they know what happened too. And they committed it to history, and their ranks are growing. So it's important not just to tell the truth, it's important that we are honest with ourselves about the risks that we face, and that we're facing it the way that we have.
Congressman Crow, thank you for your time. I appreciate you appearing.
Thanks, Don.
So, as I was just mentioning to the Congressman, tomorrow Facebook's still new oversight board, which the company says is independent. It's going to announce their decision on whether or not to allow disgraced former President Trump back on the site, which could allow him to post again to 32 million followers. The landmark decision is primed to set a precedent for how big tech handles a battle between free speech and public safety concerns. Let's discuss now. Kara Swisher is here. She is a New York Times opinion contributing writer, where she's written about the relationship between Trump and Facebook. And also her podcast, Sway, which I was just on. Thank you very much, Kara. Good to see you.
No problem. Good to see you.
It's been 4 months since Trump was booted from major platforms, instigating the January 6th insurrection. Do you think that he's going to be allowed back on Facebook, Kara?
That is my prediction for tomorrow, with some caveats. I think there's going to be a bunch of caveats on how he behaves and various things they can't violate. But I have a feeling, and I've heard from people, that that is what is happening. That said, you never know. You don't know what could happen. I think we'll find out tomorrow at 9 a.m. It's, again, one of these things where we're sort of waiting on a Donald Trump suspense story of whether he should be on or off a platform because of his behavior. Here we are.
These are issues that I know that you've debated about misinformation and propaganda. I mean, he used Facebook and other social media to spread disinformation, propaganda, outright lies. He was a master at it. Even if he gets back on, you said there's a bunch of caveats, but what do you think happens then?
Then they kick him off again. I think that, it's like a game of whack-a-mole in a lot of ways. And you're going to be surprised I say this, but I don't blame him at all, because why wouldn't you take advantage if these companies are going to let you do whatever you want? Many people get kicked off for much lesser things, and it finally took them until January 6th before they decided they didn't want to be part of a seditious kind of behavior, which is a bright red line for these companies. There's a few bright red lines, but he had crossed and violated their laws all the time. There are different rules. They don't enforce them that well. They gave him a lot of leeway. They tried to put labels on him on Twitter. And they finally had enough with the insurrection, and Facebook did make the decision to suspend him because of the safety of people at the Capitol and elsewhere, and sort of the tenseness in the country. And then Facebook punted it off to this board, which is an independent board, which is paid for by Facebook, but is independent, of 20 very prominent people to make this decision. It's a little like the UN or the Supreme Court. I don't know quite what to compare it to, but this is Facebook's job to make this decision, and they abrogated their responsibility to do so in order not, I guess, to keep their hands clean. I'm not really clear why they needed to do this.
No, well, that's what I wanted to ask you. And listen, you can, I don't know if you want to answer giving your opinion or not about whether you think he should be put back on or not. But quickly, do you think he should be allowed back on?
No, he broke the.
Okay.
He's an outlier who broke the rules on the platform persistently, and as the head of Reddit said, he's sort of a malignant cooperator, I guess. I don't know what else.
I don't disagree with you either. I think that I would take advantage of an opportunity like that. I don't disagree with you at all. Do you think they're shirking their responsibility? Is my next question.
I do. I think this is their job. Mark made his famous speech. He didn't want to be an arbiter of truth. My question to him, which I write in a column tomorrow in the Times, is you don't want to be an arbiter of truth. Why build a platform where it's important that someone arbitrate the truth, or at least control the platform? The question is whether they're a media company, whether they're a platform, whether they have responsibility. It's very clear they have impact. January 6th shows that. And so they do have some responsibility to manage the platform they built. Twitter has made the hard decision, and it wasn't an easy one. YouTube is still sort of in the middle. It hasn't put Donald Trump back on. But Facebook has handed it off to others to make the decision because they can't make it on their own. I think it's their decision to make, even though others don't think that, but I do.
So, what do you think about this he has this new landing page, right? He's going to have this landing page to his website, a kind of blog called From the Desk of Donald J. Trump, where he can share statements and videos directly with supporters. I mean, it's clear he is desperate to get back on social media.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's a blog. I don't quite know what it is. And it was done by Brad Parscale, which is a new company called, I think, Campaign Nucleus. Look, he's a really smart guy about tech. Whether you like him or not, or whether you think how he used tech, they use tech rather effectively in the Trump campaigns. And so, not always, but often they use it better, certainly, than the Clinton campaign. And so we'll see what he does here. It is just a blog. I don't quite know what it is. And I tweeted what's a desk. I've never heard of one. But he's trying to figure out a way he can broadcast to replace Twitter. And what's interesting is whether I think some people in the Trump orbit do think that Twitter can be pressured if Facebook sort of gives here. That Twitter can be pressured to return him, Donald Trump, to Twitter, where his real home is. That is where he really is like a maestro of malevolence, really, pretty much. But he's good at it.
Hey, Kara, I've got to run. You know how this works, but so. Why is he different? Because there are people who have been kicked off of these social media sites permanently for spreading lies and for breaking the rules. Why is he different?
He was newsworthy, and he certainly still is newsworthy, as we're all waiting on this decision tomorrow. So that was the reason at the time. I will see what they say. Why might he be allowed back on? Because most people, it's just like, it's a done deal. You're kicked off permanently. Sorry, done. You're out. What if world leaders were kicked off by a group of people running Facebook who just didn't like world leaders? I guess that would be the avenue they may go down. That this is a bigger issue about free speech of world leaders, and so that I would assume that's what
it's a privilege to be on social media. Right?
Well, there's the debate.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Kara. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you. A high school science teacher goes on a propane rant. A student says against George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. A rant recorded on a student's phone. We're going to tell you what happened. That's next.
Stuffed up? Stop suffering with My Pure Mist, the only handheld ultra pure steam inhaler. My Pure Mist is proven to provide fast, natural, drug-free relief from allergies, sinus congestion, sinus pain, dryness, cold, and flu. Only My Pure Mist gently showers your sinuses with micro mist for superb, natural, drug-free relief. No wonder 9 out of 10 users get instant symptom relief. Get My Pure Mist risk-free at Target, CVS, or Amazon. Get relief today.
Do you have a life insurance policy you no longer need? Now you can sell your policy, even a term policy, for an immediate cash payment. Call Coventry Direct to learn more.
We thought we had planned carefully for our retirement.
But we quickly realized we needed a way to supplement our income.
Our friends sold their policy to help pay their medical bills. And that got me thinking, maybe selling our policy could help with our retirement.
I was skeptical. I did some research and called Coventry Direct. They explained life insurance is a valuable asset that can be sold.
We learned we could sell all of our policy or keep part of it with no future payments. Who knew? We sold our policy. Now we can relax and enjoy our retirement as we had planned.
If you have $100,000 or more of life insurance, you may qualify to sell your policy. Don't cancel or let your policy lapse without finding out what it's worth. Visit CoventryDirect.com to find out if your policy qualifies, or call 1-800-651-0200. Coventry Direct, redefining insurance.
When I was younger, my hair made me feel really beautiful. When my hair started to thin, it really made me feel old.
I first noticed hair loss after giving birth to my first daughter. It was really coming out pretty dramatically. I was feeling pretty hopeless, and then I decided to do something about it.
I went to my hairdresser and he told me about the Scal. Once I started taking the Scal, my hair is full, it's rich again. I love the way it feels. It's wonderful.
Reclaim the hair that makes you fully you. Viscal is the clinically proven #1 selling hair growth supplement that has worked for millions of women of every age and hair type.
I was really surprised by the results. My hair's never grown this fast before, so I was thrilled.
I felt a really big sense of relief when my hair was coming back. It was like, okay, I'm gonna look like myself.
The secret is Aminomar, a proprietary collagen complex that nourishes hair follicles and promotes the growth and thickness of existing hair. In a study among women, 92% reported an increase in hair volume, and 94% experienced thicker hair.
For my patients with hair loss, Viviscal is drug-free. It's a supplement that's easy to take, and it works.
Viviscal has made me embrace, appreciate, and love my natural hair.
I'm back to feeling more vibrant, more youthful. More hair is awesome.
Order now and we'll send you a full 3-month supply of Viviscal, and you'll only pay $39.99 to get started. Shipping is free. Plus, you'll get a complete, nourishing, healthy hair kit, including a full-size leave-in elixir, which 9 out of 10 women said their hair appeared thicker and fuller in just 1 week. All this, an $80 value, free. If you don't absolutely love your results, just send back what you don't use and keep all these gifts just for trying Viviscal. You can find Viviscal at retailers everywhere, but this special TV offer is only available by going online to order at tryviviscal.com.
These folks don't have time to go to the post office. They use Stamps.com. All the services of the post office, only cheaper. Get a 4-week trial plus postage and a digital scale. Go to Stamps.com/TV and never go to the post office again.
Johnny Carson was the one that made late night TV important. He had this aura about him. He was not black or white. He was funny.
He's the king of late night.
The story of late night, Sunday night at 9 on CNN.
A New Jersey high school teacher suspended from his job after going on an angry, profanity-filled rant against George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. The tirade happening during a virtual class. One senior recording it on her phone and saying that she and 3 other students of color were singled out by their teacher. And I have to warn you, the video is disturbing. Here's CNN's Alexandra Field.
And the bottom line is we make him a hero. He's not a hero. He's like a criminal.
An explosive tirade from a Jersey City high school science teacher, Howard Zlotkin, ranting to his landscape and design class, the student says, against George Floyd.
You guys emulate people like people that are wrong, that are criminals, and you make them right because they're black or because they got a bad story. Everybody's got a bad story.
Zlotkin then unleashes on the Black Lives Matter movement and its founders.
The ladies that run Black Lives Matter own 5 houses and multi-millionaires, and they don't give.
Later, when a student dares to disagree with his declaration that he is not privileged, a disturbing, profanity-laced response.
And I'll tell you something, I ain't privileged. I come to work, I happen to get paid by my black vice principal who thinks I'm privileged too. And I come to school.
You are privileged, so every white person is privileged. It's called
well, you know what? You are privileged.
Tia Williams, a 17-year-old in the class, recorded the tirade on her phone.
If I didn't record and I just told my principal, he's probably not going to believe me.
Williams, who has just been accepted to college to study nursing, says she left the virtual class in tears after she and 3 other Black girls were singled out with an assignment, a presentation on why Black Lives Matter. She says she contacted several of her counselors to let them know what happened in class. Her mother, Margie Nieva, says she called the school board, but they say no one responded to their complaints.
No one has reached out. No one's concerned how these kids are doing.
The very next day, Williams said Zlotkin was back in class, demanding that she explain why Black Lives Matter.
I'm not presenting.
Why not? Why not?
Because I don't want to present.
Why? You sound like my other student. You don't care. Of course, why? You can't make a case for yourself? No, you can't to me, that's why.
No, that's not why. I just don't feel like presenting.
I don't think you can make a case. You know what, to me, don't worry about it. You're full of too.
Zlotkin has not responded to CNN's request for comment. He told the Washington Post he's being judged on a snapshot out of a 60-minute class, that his comments were taken out of context, and that he can't comment further because of the ongoing investigation. He has now been suspended with pay from Dickinson High School while the Jersey City School District's legal department investigates whether to dismiss the tenured teacher. In a statement, the district is saying it's appalled by the statements Zlotkin made to students filled with anger, profanity, and disrespect. The Jersey City Board of Education President Musab Ali tells us Zlotkin was back in class after the first rant because the district was still collecting information and hadn't yet received the video.
I hope that, he doesn't ever teach again.
Nieva says her daughter is still reeling, sending friends and relatives of other races, even her mom, heartbreaking messages.
And she'll say, Mom, do you accept me for my color, for my race? And I said, yeah, of course. I love you. You're my only child. I'll die for you. That broke my heart. That touched me. And I'm just like, what has this man done to my daughter?
I don't know who's looking at me in a different way. I don't know who's gonna be like, oh, I don't like you because of your color, or oh, like your life just don't matter.
And Don, anyone who watches those videos may be quick to come to their own conclusions, but the school district says its investigation is still underway. The school board president, Musab Ali, says they have also reached out to local police and child protective services. Howard Zlotkin is an adjunct professor at Hudson County Community College as well. The college has responded to the release of those videos with a statement saying Zlotkin has been suspended with pay pending further investigation. Don?
Alexander Field, thank you so much. Republicans across the country trying to make it harder to vote, but my next guest says it is at least one key state, in at least one key state, that could backfire on them. Plus, the FDA is expected to authorize the vaccine for kids ages 12 to 15 early next week.
I want American parents to know that if that announcement comes, they're ready to move immediately.
Airwick was inspired by the beautiful natural fragrance of wildflowers to create our limited edition spring collection. So we're partnering with World Wildlife Fund to reseed native wildflowers and grasslands. Learn more at airwick.us.
Your skin deserves to glow, and it starts with Vanity Planet. From steamers that cleanse away dirt and makeup, with hydroionic steam that leaves your complexion radiant, brushes that gently exfoliate, reveal fresher, smoother, softer skin, and mirrors that shine the perfect light. Your makeup always looks beautiful. Treat your skin to the entire line of skin transforming products from Vanity Planet. You can find them at a retailer near you, or go to vanityoutlines.com. Vanity Planet, because good skin is always in.
Fact, every tax company says they're accurate, but only TaxAct backs your return with our $100,000 accuracy guarantee. So make the switch. File for less and get more with TaxAct.
Which of these meals took just 15 minutes to prepare? All of them. Gobble does the planning and prep work for you, then delivers freshly prepared dinner kits right to your doorstep. So you can cook up a deliciously fresh, chef-designed meal in just 15 minutes. Really? So let us deliver next week's dinner. Get your first 6 meals for just $36 at gobble.com/cook36.
It's time to leave the day behind. Let everything switch off. Take a big, deep breath in and put your mind to bed with Headspace. Now, 30% off.
You had your kitchen remodeled, made your driveway the envy of your neighborhood, reshingled the roof just in time for a meteor shower, treated yourself to the ultimate backyard upgrade, and removed a truly shocking amount of cat hair from your living room. All thanks to the top growth you found on Angie. Get $20 off your first home project at Angie.com today. Make your home an Angie home. Angie, and done.
Tony here for CreditRepair.com. Take it to the streets to talk about credit. What's a good credit score? Go.
600.
Maybe if you're trying to pay thousands extra in interest rates. Can your credit score impact your job? Oh, I know this one.
No.
Oh, no. Is credit repair expensive?
Isn't having bad credit expensive?
My man. Cut the confusion. Get started with a free credit evaluation at CreditRepair.com.
Technologies have the same biases that we do.
Oh, I got a white hand.
If you're going to schools that don't prepare you adequately in STEM, ultimately you're not going to make those play.
United Shades of America will come out though. Sunday at 10 on DMF.
Oh, when Juna.
Shit, that guy.
Yes. Wait, I don't remember that. What's season 4? Don't tell me you haven't seen it. I watched season 3.
You won't stay caught up for long unless you keep watching the best shows from Hulu, Peacock, Stars, Showtime, and HBO Max all year long. Just say watch-a-thon into your voice remote to add a channel or streaming service and stay caught up. These days, your couch may be getting more mileage than your wheels, but that doesn't mean you can't plan for your next adventure or how you get there. Bring the best new models straight to your big screen with the X1 Auto Showroom. Just say Auto Showroom into your X1 voice remote or go to channel 1242. In the X1 Auto Showroom, you can scroll through participating manufacturers, see all the latest videos of your favorite vehicles, and maybe even how they handle. When the open road starts calling again, what will you be driving? Find it on the X1 Auto Showroom, powered by Effective.
I'm Jeff Zeleny at the White House, and this is CNN.
Republican lawmakers in Florida who control both the state house and Senate passing an elections bill that adds a layer of new restrictions to voting in Florida, including new restrictions on voting by mail using voter drop boxes. But could some of these provisions end up hurting Republicans? Let's discuss now. Daniel A. Smith is a political science professor at the University of Florida, and Philip Bump, national correspondent for the Washington Post. So good to see both of you, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Daniel, let's start with you. The Florida's governor, Ron DeSantis, says he's going to sign this new bill, making it harder to vote. Democrats are calling it a revival of Jim Crow. But you've looked at the data. Give us the reality check. Could this also backfire on Republicans?
Well, it's great to be on, Colin. Look, we know that Republicans use vote by mail. They historically have done so here in Florida. They've done so in great numbers. That changed in 2020. Democrats mobilized because of fear of COVID. Liberals more concerned about their health, shifted to voting by mail. 2.2 million Democrats cast mail ballots. That was an increase from about 29% of all ballots cast in 2016 being by mail by Democrats up to about 54%. A huge increase. Republicans at 1.5 million was just a slight uptick from around 30% to 34% of all ballots cast. So Ron DeSantis and others are very concerned about that Democratic surge with respect to the use of vote by mail. Will it also hurt Republicans? Sure, but that's not who's being targeted by these very specific efforts to cut down on after-hour vote by mailing, drop boxes, and other onerous conditions.
So, all right, so answer me this. If ballot drop boxes were used by 1.5 million Florida voters in 2020, what's the purpose of limiting something like that?
That's a great question. I mean, Ron DeSantis himself said this was a model election. Drop boxes were rolled out across all 67 of our counties. They actually started in Pinellas County with a Republican supervisor of election using them across their county, and it showed great success. Ron DeSantis thought this was a great election. What is the problem with allowing 24/7 drop boxes that have security? Public records indicate that the supervisors either had man security or video security. They've also noted that there were no problems at any of the drop boxes with respect to the security of those ballots. 1.5 out of the 4.8 million vote by mail ballots were estimated to be dropped off, many of them after the 7 p.m. close of polls during many early voting hours. Other supervisors only have their early voting maybe open from 9 to 5 in the 2-week period. What is the point of having a drop box that is there that is only open during normal business hours? We don't go to ATMs only during normal business hours. They are ATMs so that we can go and vote when the bank is closed. That's the point. And
Go and get money.
New legislation is coming out.
Go and vote against your checking account at off hours. Listen, Philip, the New York Times had some analysis about how voters of color, making up an increasing percentage of the electorate, isn't hurting the GOP as much as conservatives feared. So here's writing this. Texas and Florida really would be blue if Latinos voted like their counterparts in New York or Illinois. But instead, Latino population growth has not quite had a strong pro-democratic punch in the states where the party hoped to land a knockout blow. So, Philip, what's the message here? Because both parties had made assumptions about diverse voters didn't turn out to be true.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it's important to remember it's a really long-term trend. And the data point that I always like to point to is the fact that in 2008, the United States moved very sharply to the left, elected its first black president. And then 2014, 6 years later, it was a much more dramatic move back to the right. And Republicans vastly overperformed. And the density of the white vote in those two elections was essentially the same. So it very much matters on who's coming out to vote. One of the things that we saw happen with Trump is he really mobilized a lot of infrequent or less frequent voters, particularly white voters who may not have a college degree, to come out and vote, right? And so we're looking at this pattern that happens over time. And I actually went back and looked at this last week, and I looked at the House races and I looked at presidential races, and I found the same thing, that there hasn't been this correlation between a move to the left and an increasingly diverse electorate. But it's also the case that we're seeing a lot of other shifts under the scenes, right? We saw this shift in 2020, according to exit polls, where Hispanic voters in particular, both in Florida and South Texas, Nevada, were more likely to vote for President Trump than they had been in 2016. We saw shifts as well, as I mentioned, among white voters without college degrees, a shift that's been happening for more than a decade now. These sorts of things help us influence what the final outcome is, and it's not always in the direction that one might anticipate.
Daniel, talk to me about, you have this survey. You got over 11,000 email responses from Florida registered voters and discovered that Republicans who said they always voted in person, that wasn't actually true. Tell me what you found.
Yeah, so we surveyed around 12,000 voters in Florida. It was a scientific poll. We had about 5,000 who voted by mail, Republicans, Democrats, no party affiliates. We did so in late summer, July, up until August 1st. This was right when Trump started to rail against vote by mail very aggressively. You might remember his interview at the White House with Chris Wallace on Fox Sunday News, where he just ripped on vote by mail. And it was before our survey was out of the field, before he kind of turned and pivoted on August 3rd here in Florida, saying, well, in Florida, vote by mail is okay, because Republican operatives were getting very worried. We asked these voters, how do you usually vote? And from the vote history files of the public records, we actually know exactly how voters vote, not in terms of who they cast their ballots for, but in terms of their method. And so we looked at Republicans and Democrats who always vote by mail, and we found in our survey that about 1 in 4 Republicans who we know always vote by mail, when we asked them, said, no, I usually vote in person. We're taking a huge cue from Donald Trump and, saying, no, we don't. We also then, after the election, looked at the vote history and looked at what people said in terms of that July, August, how do you plan on voting? And again, we found about 1 in 5 voters who said, Republicans, who said that they were going to vote by mail, who in fact said they were going to vote in person, who we know always vote by mail, actually voted by mail again. This was about 5 times more than Republicans.
I got it right. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Philip. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Life before cerebral was pretty taxing. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and I found cerebral.
Cerebral is an app that combines medication management and behavioral care all in one nice package.
I signed up, I got the video call, I got the pill shipped to me. Normal therapy costs about 3 times as much as cerebral.
Getting this type of care online, it really is a lifesaver. Join today for just $30 at getcerebral.com.
Attention Medicare recipients. The Inogen One Portable Oxygen Concentrator may now be available at little or no cost to you. Call 800-253-1800. Order yours today. Inogen oxygen concentrators are portable and make oxygen from the air around you. They're light, quiet, and battery operated to go everywhere you go. And we have a full line of portable oxygen units to fit a wide range of budgets. If you're on Medicare, you may even qualify to get your Inogen unit at little or no cost to you. Go back to joining friends for the breakfast special, make spending time with the grandkids easier, or start attending your religious services again. Call Inogen now for a free information kit and a free no-obligation consultation on our complete line of affordable portable oxygen products. And anyone on Medicare or with eligible insurance plans may qualify to get an Inogen One at little or no cost. Call 800-253-1800. That's 800-253-1800.
You could take your ulcerative colitis treatment in a different direction.
Hi,
soft too, and it can spread.
It's time to start using Fungi. It's time to start.
Sweet goodness of softness.
This is soft. Oh. Back, everybody. If we all go, why not enjoy the go with Charmin? You want to know your greatest strength?
Your charm, good looks. From Clinton with every morning has arrived. Clinton's with every morning rated R. Now streaming only on Prime Video.
Our Confident Forever plan is possible with a CFP professional.
A CFP professional can help you build a complete financial plan. Visit letsmakeaplan.org to find your CFP professional.
So when in doubt, just say, let me.
From Clinton's with every morning rated R. Now streaming only on Prime Video.
Our Confident Forever plan is possible with a CFP professional.
A CFP professional can help you build it.
Jesus.
When you save money with Allstate, you feel like you're winning. Safe drivers save 40%. Saving is easy when you're in good hands. Allstate. Click or call for a quote today.
Hello. Hey, B-Mark. I didn't realize you would be an A-Mark and the B-Mark. Now feel unprepared.
Lots of energy. We're sitting in chairs in an empty house.
It should be fun.
I'm hoping for a sillier future.
You got a microphone, guys.
The story of late night. Sundays at 9 on CNN.
Want to help kids get their homework done? Well, the internet connection is a good start. But kids also need computers. And sometimes the hardest thing about homework is finding a place to do it. So why not hook community centers up with Wi-Fi for kids like us and all the amazing things we're going to learn?
For the next 10 years, Comcast is committing $1 billion to reach 50 million low-income Americans with the tools and resources they need to be ready for anything.
I hope you're ready. We are.
Non-valvular AFib can mean a lifetime of blood thinners. And if you are troubled by falls and bleeds, worry follows you everywhere. Over 150,000 people have left blood thinners behind with Watchman. It's a one-time, minimally invasive procedure that reduces stroke risk and bleeding worry for life. Watchman. It's one time for a lifetime.
I'm Sam Kiley-Telly, and this is CNN.
Liz Cheney's future and leadership of the Republican Party clearly in doubt tonight. A vote on her future and her replacement is expected as soon as next Wednesday. Brendan Buck is here. Brendan is the former top aide to Paul Ryan and John Boehner while they were.
We already heard this.
And Republican strategist Sarah Longwell here as well. Good evening to both of you. Thank you so much for joining. So, Brendan, Cheney is not backing down. She is forcing everyone to confront all of this, even if it means losing her leadership role. You've worked as a top aide to both Paul Ryan, John Boehner. What do you think about what she's doing and the impact it's going to have on the party?
Well, it appears at this point that she knows that her days are numbered. I can't read any other way into this, that she knows that there's going to be a vote called next week. And I think she realizes she's probably no longer a good fit. But she's not going to make this easy on them. And what I love about what she's doing is she's not going into hyperbole or saying crazy things about Donald Trump. She's simply saying clearly, obviously true things, and it just makes her colleagues squirm, and it makes them uncomfortable, and she's making them confront uncomfortable truths, not just about Donald Trump, but about themselves. And I think that's where this is really coming to a head. It's not that she's criticizing Donald Trump, it's that she is making them confront the role that they all played leading up to January 6th. What they said about the election being stolen. Everybody in the House Republican Conference, say maybe 10 people, want to move on from this. They want to forget about it, want to whitewash that it happened. They don't want to have to answer these questions or have this hanging over Donald Trump's head if he runs again. So when she's making it uncomfortable for them, you can't be a leader like that when you're basically making life hell for your own members. So I understand why she thinks it's untenable, and I appreciate that she's going down swinging.
Well, Sarah, given what Brendan said, I don't think he's wrong about that. Then what gives, and how much longer do you, I guess they can do it indefinitely, but I'll still pose the question to you. Can you continue to delude yourself into lies and pretend it's reality? Or better question, how much longer can you continue to shape your own reality?
Well, look, it really comes down to the voters. I mean, I have spent the last couple of months talking to Trump voters, and the fact is, they believe the lie. They believe that the election was fraudulent. They believe that the insurrection on January 6th was no big deal. You know, these voters, they want to move on from the Mitt Romneys and the Liz Cheneys, and frankly, from the party that Brendan and I joined and worked for. I mean, it's just not where the voters are anymore. They believe these lies. The reason the politicians are acting this way is because they believe that the voters want them to. They believe that the people who are going to put them in office want to engage in grievance politics. And they do. Look, when I talk to these voters, it is culture war all the way down. They, even when I talk to them and I say, what are you for? What do you want out of a politician? They have a difficult time articulating what it is they're for, but they're excellent at articulating what.
Why did he go all the way back to there?
You see, but I think the prosecution has a strong.
We want kids up.
Go with the
We're going to
lead off.
Daughter is still reeling, sending.
Darn. Is the fact that in 2008, the United States moved very sharply to the left, elected its first black president, and then 2014, 6 years later, it was a much.
Approved film for moderate.
We have available in the U.S., but it's just a matter of time before one of the
reduce symptoms in as early as 2 weeks.
Elected its first black president, and then 2014, 6 years later, it was a much more dramatic move back to the right, and Republicans vastly overperformed, and the density of the white vote in those two elections was essentially the same. So it very much matters on who's coming out to vote. One of the things that we saw happen with Trump is he really mobilized a lot of infrequent or less frequent voters, particularly white voters who may not have a college degree, to come out and vote. Right, and so we're looking at this pattern that happens over time. And I actually went back and looked at this last week, and I looked at House races and I looked at presidential races, and I found the same thing, that there hasn't been this correlation between a move to the left and an increasingly diverse electorate. But it's also the case that we're seeing a lot of other shifts under the scenes, right? We saw this shift in 2020, according to exit polls, where Hispanic voters in particular, both in Florida and South Texas, Nevada, were more likely to vote for President Trump than they had been in 2016. We saw shifts as well, as I mentioned, among white voters without college degrees, a shift that's been happening, for more than a decade now. These sorts of things help influence what the final outcome is, and it's not always in the direction that one might anticipate it.
Daniel, talk to me about, you have this survey. You got over 11,000 email responses from Florida registered voters and discovered that Republicans who said they always voted in person, that wasn't actually true. Tell me what you found.
Yeah, so we surveyed around 12,000 voters in Florida. It was a scientific poll. We had about 5,000 who voted by mail, Republicans, Democrats, no party affiliates. We did so in late summer, July, up until August 1st. This was right when Trump started to rail against vote by mail very aggressively. You might remember his interview at the White House with Chris Wallace on Fox Sunday News, where he just ripped on vote by mail. And it was before our survey was out of the field, before he kind of turned and pivoted on August 3rd here in Florida, saying, well, in Florida, vote by mail is okay, because Republican officers were getting very worried. We asked these voters, how do you usually vote? And from the vote history files of the public records, we actually know exactly how voters vote, not in terms of who they cast their ballots for, but in terms of their method. And so we looked at Republicans and Democrats who always vote by mail, and we found in our survey that about 1 in 4 Republicans who we know always vote by mail, when we asked them, said, no, I usually vote in person. So taking a huge cue from Donald Trump and, saying, no, we don't do this. We also then, after the election, looked at the vote history and looked at what people said in terms of that August, July, August, how do you plan on voting? And again, we found about 1 in 5 voters who said, Republicans who said that they were going to vote by mail, who in fact said they were going to vote in person, who we know always vote by mail, actually voted by mail again. This was about 5 times more than Republicans.
I gotta run. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Philip. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We'll be right back.
Life before Cerebral was pretty taxing. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and I found Cerebral.
Cerebral is an app that combines medication management and behavioral care all in one.
The feed is broken. That's why it went back to there. I don't know what time it's at the feed. It says 12:13, but I don't think that's where it really is.
Join today for just $30 at getcerebral.com.
Attention Medicare recipients. The Inogen One Portable Oxygen Concentrator may now be available at little or no cost to you. Call 800-253-1800. Order yours today. Inogen oxygen concentrators are portable and make oxygen from the air around you. They're light, quiet, and battery operated to go everywhere you go. And we have a full line of portable oxygen units to fit a wide range of budgets. If you're on Medicare, you may even qualify to get your Inogen unit at little or no cost to you. Go back to joining friends for the breakfast special, make spending time with the grandkids easier, or start attending your religious services again. Call Inogen now for a free information kit and a free no-obligation consultation on our complete line of affordable portable oxygen products. And anyone on Medicare or with eligible insurance plans may qualify to get an Inogen One at little or no cost. Call 800-253-1800. That's 800-253-1800.
You could take your ulcerative colitis treatment in a different direction. Talk to your doctor about Xeljanz, a pill, not an injection or infusion, for adults with moderate to severe ulcerative colitis when a certain medicine did not help enough. Xeljanz is the first and only FDA-approved pill for moderate to severe UC. It can reduce symptoms in as early as 2 weeks, improve the appearance of the intestinal lining, and provide lasting steroid-free remission. Xeljanz can lower your ability to fight infections. Before and during treatment, your doctor should check for infections like TB and blue blood tests. Tell your doctor if you've had hepatitis B or C, have flu-like symptoms, or are prone to infections. Serious, sometimes fatal infections, cancers, including lymphoma, and blood clots that happen. Taking a higher than recommended dose of Xeljanz for RA may increase risk of death, tears in the stomach or intestine, and serious allergic reactions that happen. You could take your UC treatment in a different direction. Ask your gastroenterologist about Xeljanz.
It's one of the greatest albums ever made.
There's too many white people cry. Marvin Gaye's groundbreaking What's Going On.
He created something that will last.
50 years later, why is it an anthem for a new generation?
It's prophecy, man.
What do you think Marvin would think about What's Going On?
A CNN special, What's Going On, Sunday at 8.
At Fred Meyer, keeping food fresher than fresh means being on your A game every hour of every day. Sure, it's more work for us. It's more fresh for you. And that's why everything at Fred Meyer comes guaranteed fresh, or we'll make it right. Fred Meyer, fresh for everyone.
Oh, allergy sufferers. Bedtime means it's time to take Lysol. Lysol relieves allergies while you sleep, so you wake refreshed. And in a clinical study, after just 1 day, 90% felt powerful 24-hour relief. So be wise all. Take Lysol at night.
I tried a laxative that's both gentle and fast.
Great tasting Dulcolac soft juice works naturally with water in your body in as little as 30 minutes. Puts you comfortably in control. Dulcolac soft juice.
United States of America with W. Kamalka. Mondays at 10 on CNN.
A source telling CNN the FDA is poised to authorize Pfizer's COVID vaccine for children aged 12 and 15 by early next week. President Biden saying today, as soon as the FDA makes its decision, the administration is ready to get those teens and children vaccinated. There's a lot to discuss now with Dr. Dimitri Christakis, director of the Center for Child Health, Behavior, and Development at Seattle Children's Hospital. He's also editor-in-chief of JAMA Pediatrics. We're so glad to have you on. Thank you, doctor, for joining.
Thanks for having me.
So let's say the vaccine is authorized next week. How soon do you think kids will be able to get vaccinated?
I think they'll be able to get vaccinated right away. You know, the truth is, we're in a situation, somewhat regrettably, that vaccine supply is exceeding demand. So depending on where you live, there are vaccines available immediately. And once children are authorized to get them, they can sign up just like anybody else.
Children generally, doctor, haven't gotten seriously sick, generally, and speaking generalities here, from coronavirus.
Yeah.
Unlike older people, there have been cases, as you know. What do you say to parents who might think that they should take the risk rather than get their kids the vaccine?
Well, it's a really good point. And, you know, I've been on the show before and made the point that children are at low risk, which they are. But they're not at no risk, right? Some children get very ill. Some children get a phenomenon called long COVID, which we're still trying to figure out exactly what that is. And of course, it's too early for us to know what the long-term implications of children getting COVID might be. And the second thing I would say is that from a societal perspective, any person who can get and transmit the virus keeps the virus circulating, keeps the virus potentially reaching someone who is high risk. And more importantly, keeps the virus able to mutate. And right now, thankfully, all of the mutations, as far as we know, wherever they've originated, are still susceptible to the vaccines that we have available, at least in the US. But it's just a matter of time before one of these mutants becomes non-susceptible to the vaccine. So it's in the best interest of all of us, including the children who want to get back to their lives as normal, that we all step up and get a vaccine and stop transmission.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because, listen, you know, the summer's coming. Parents are going to be concerned about this, rightfully so. The CDC has put out guidance for summer camps. Okay, so take a look at this. They say masks must be worn basically at all times, even outdoors when playing sports, by everyone, including vaccinated adults. You call this draconian. What do you think should be done instead, doctor?
Well, I do think it's unnecessarily draconian. You know, it's really disappointing to see that the recommendations for summer camps are about where they were last year. Actually, in some ways, they're more strict than they were last year. And we've learned a lot in the past year. We've learned that transmission outdoors is rarer. We've learned that young children transmit less frequently than older children. And of course, we have a vaccine that's available. So why would we have recommendations from the CDC that say, if you're vaccinated and outdoors, you don't ask? And now we have a vaccine available for 12-year-old children, or will by summer, and subject children to these very strict guidelines. To me, there's a much simpler strategy. If your child is 12 years or older, get them vaccinated, and then they can go to summer camp. If they're younger than 12, this summer where there won't be a vaccine available for them, and they're playing outside, let them not wear masks as frequently if you can, and have them not wear masks. And if they're indoors, and can't socially distance, then they can mask like they've been doing in schools. It's just really interesting to me, Don, that we have stricter guidelines around children in camps than we do in restaurants, than we do for adults. Why? Why are we not prioritizing letting children get back to their lives? They've made an enormous sacrifice over the last 15 months. A sacrifice, by the way, that will have long-term implications for their social emotional development. We really must prioritize doing everything we can to normalize their lives as soon as possible.
Doctor, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Always great information. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
We'll be right back.
It hasn't been 15 months.
Mold Armor.
Kills mold and mildew and cleans your home's exterior humidity. Mold Armor's easy-to-use formula combines with a powerful spray to remove stains without scrubbing. Kill mold and mildew.
Mold Armor. Mold Armor.
Your skin deserves to glow, and it starts with
been
Vanity
13 and a
Planet,
half.
from steamers that cleanse away dirt and makeup with hydroionic steam that leaves your complexion radiant, brushes that gently exfoliate, reveal fresher, smoother, softer skin, and mirrors that shine the perfect light. Your makeup always looks beautiful. Treat your skin to the entire line of skin transforming products from Vanity Planet. You can find them at a retailer near you or go to vanityoutlines.com. Vanity Planet, because good skin is always in.
Stop suffering with My Pure Mist, the only handheld ultra pure steam inhaler. My Pure Mist is proven to provide fast, natural, drug-free relief from allergies, sinus congestion, sinus pain, dryness, cold, and flu. Only My Pure Mist gently showers your sinuses with micro mints for superb, natural, drug-free relief. No wonder 9 out of 10 users get instant symptom relief. Get My Pure Mist risk-free at Target, CVS, or Amazon. Get relief today.
Uh-oh, that food container won't contain your food, so you mess with cling wraps and foil, hoping food won't spoil. Well, not anymore. Now there's Stretch and Fresh containers, the amazing food storage containers with stretch and fit lids that let you store more. Even the odd-shaped foods you couldn't put in containers before. Watch, just stretch over the food and snap lock the lid to keep food fresh. That's it. Instantly, you've got an airtight seal that locks air out and locks freshness in to help stop spoilage, so food stays fresher longer. Stretch and Fresh has a clear lid so you can see what's inside, so food stays sealed, retaining their natural colors, nutrients, and fresh flavors. There's even a freshness date dial to track storage time, so foods don't go past their prime. With an airtight seal this tight, you can store onions without the odors, fresh fish fillets without the fishy smell, and store soups, dressings, and sauces without leaks and spills. Give the kids fresh, healthy, grab-and-go treats instead of sweets. Whether you're packing today's work lunch or meals for work all week, store much more with Stretch and Fresh. It comes in the sizes you need to store all the food you want with amazing storage capacity. It's freezer and microwave safe, so you can prepare, refrigerate, freeze, heat, and serve, all from one container. Now that's versatility. To clean, simply rinse or rack in the dishwasher. And the containers nest for compact, stacked, space-saving storage. Stop wasting time and money on cling wrap, foil, and spoiled food. Store more the smart way with Stretch and Fresh. And right now, the 6-piece set is yours for just $19.95, and the shipping is free. But wait, call now and we'll double the offer and send a second set. Just pay a separate fee. You get 2 complete Stretch and Fresh sets of $40 value, all for one value price with free shipping. Here's how to order.
Call 1-800-711-9138 or go to trystretchandfresh.com. That's 1-800-711-9138 or order online at trystretchandfresh.com.
Fact! Everybody gets stuck sometimes. My tax situation's pretty complicated.
TaxAct CPAs and experts are now on call 7 days a week. And they'll help you maximize your refunds. File for less and get more with TaxAct.
I got this mountain bike for only $11.
Dealdash.com, the fair and honest bidding site. We've sold an iPad worth $505 for less than $24, a stand mixer for less than $20, a 4K television for under $2, a MacBook Pro for under $16, as well as a PlayStation 4 for under $16, and brand new cars for less than $900. Dealdash.com offers hundreds of auctions every day. All auctions start at $0 and everything must go. And don't forget, we offer a full 90-day money-back guarantee on your first bid pack purchase.
I want these Bluetooth headphones for $20.
I got these 3 suitcases for less than $40.
And shipping is always free.
Go to DealDash.com today and see how much you can save.
There are auctions going on right now. So what are you waiting for?
I may not be a physicist, but I can teach my child to love science.
United Shades of America with 3 Kamal Bell. Sunday at 10 on CNN.
Before we go, I want to make sure you know about my new special coming up. 50 years after Marvin Gaye's groundbreaking album, What's Going On, was released, why has it become an anthem for a new generation? A CNN special, What's Going On? Marvin Gaye's Anthem for the Ages premieres Sunday at 8 p.m. Here's a preview.
I would cut class to listen to this album. This motto right here, timeless. Timeless.
How much do you think was influenced by his brother's involvement in Vietnam?
Marvin's getting a first-hand account of Vietnam from his brother. But then Marvin's in Detroit, the Big D. He's seen the Bloods come back on heroin, handicapped, or in coffins. The song What's Happening, Brother, that's from someone who just came back to the world. They call U.S. the world.
Hey, what you know good? I'm just getting back to you, my boy.
God.
You've never washed dishes in this. Your dishwasher looks clean, but when grease and limescale build up, it's not as hygienic as you think. Use Finish Dishwasher Cleaner. Its dual action formula tackles grease and limescale. Finish. Clean dishwasher. Clean dishes.
Tony here from CreditRepair.com, taken to the streets to talk about credit. Can you repair your
the intestinal lining and provide lac?
6 years later, it was a much more dramatic move back to the right, and Republicans vastly overperformed, and the density of the white vote in those 2 elections was essentially the same.
And provide
susceptible to the vaccine.
So, yes, sir.
The president touting a new website and text option to find nearby doses, along with plant.
Frank Thomas, you guys look great.
Option to find nearby doses, along with plans to ship supply.
And with a vengeance in the winter.
By doses, along with plans to ship supply for
energy, less drive, definitely. It's not your fault. It happens to every time and money on cling wrap. It happens to every man. Testosterone levels drop as you age.
One of you guys?
Yeah.
Our goal by July 4th is to have
testosterone levels drop as you age.
One of you guys?
Yeah.
So what did you do? What?
Honestly speaking, I'm quite concerned, and I think that people need to realize that unless we have a global effort to stop COVID infections, this is going to linger for years, not for months, but for years. You have to realize this is almost a year and a half since we already started, and the virus started in China. So if you have pockets of infection throughout the
A bottle of Nugenix Total T Text Choice 242424. This unique and boosting formula is now.
But wait, call now and we'll double the offer.
42424. This unique and boosting formula is powered by Testofen, a patented key ingredient clinically researched to help increase testosterone levels.
That does it. I gotta get Nugenix. Just send a text for complimentary bottle. By the way, she'll like it too.
Get your complimentary bottle of Nugenix now. Text Choice 242424. Text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, with key ingredients to help you get back in shape fast, absolutely free. That's THOICE 242424.
Grammarly is your personal writing assistant for clear emails, confident messages, stronger essays, and more to help you and your kids get work done from anywhere. Write with Grammarly, wherever you work. Download today at
Make you feel welcome, would you? Byron Allen.
I always say I have 2 birthdays. The day I was born and the day I did the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
You're walking, and in your head, you were screaming like you're jumping out of a plane.
Sundays at 9.
Though you're a small business or a big one, you were thriving. But then, time to think, plan, pivot. How do you bounce back? You don't. You bounce forward. With serious and reliable internet, powered by the largest P2P network in America. But is it secure? It's secure. Even if the power goes down, your connection isn't. How do I do this? You don't do this. You do this. Together. Bounce forward. Comcast Business.
A CNN special, What's Going On? Marvin Gaye's Anthem for the Ages, Sunday at 8.
Closed captioning brought to you by Gilt. Visit Gilt.com today for up to 70% off designer brands.
At Gilt.com, get insider access to coveted designers like Valentino, Chloe, and Dior at up to 70% off retail prices. Visit Gilt.com today.
Hello and welcome to our viewers joining us here in the United States and all around the world. You are watching CNN Newsroom and I'm Rosemary Church. Just ahead, US President Joe Biden sets an ambitious new target. Give at least 70% of American adults one dose of the COVID vaccine by Independence Day. We'll look at whether that can be achieved. Plus, will former President Donald Trump be allowed to return to social media? Facebook's oversight board is set to rule on that in just a few hours. And two Americans on trial in Italy for allegedly murdering a police officer will soon learn their fate. We're live outside the Italian prison where that trial is being held.
56% of adults have at least one shot, but the average daily pace of vaccinations is slowing. Now, nearly 20.
That unless we have a global effort.
Global citizens get vaccinated. India, of course, coming up with all sorts of
COVID business segment need to know
as a vaccine.
The point I think we need to.
What are they vaccinated with at least
60 days? I believe we can do that. So that's the reason why.
President Biden's new vaccination goal. He says it'll be a challenge, but one that's doable.
The important thing that people need to remember is that when you have a large cohort of people to vaccinate, it's easier to get a larger number on a per day vaccination. We were between 3 and 4 million per day. As the pool of people who are unvaccinated gets smaller, it gets a little bit more difficult. And that's the reason why you want to do a modification of strategy. I think we're going to be able to do it. I mean, it's a challenging goal, but I think it's a doable goal. As the president said, you want to get 100 million vaccinations in the next 60 days. I believe we can do that.
Joining me now from Los Angeles is CNN medical analyst Dr. Jorge Rodriguez. Thank you so much, Doctor, for talking with us and for all that you do.
Thank you.
So, facing pressure to do a better job showing the benefits of getting vaccinated and returning to some level of normalcy, President Biden announced this new goal Tuesday to get 70% of adults vaccinated with at least one dose of the COVID vaccine by July 4th. Right now, we're around about 56%. But how's he going to convince those still hesitant to get the shot? So, what are they waiting to hear?
Well, I think they're waiting to hear that if we do that, and I think it's very accomplishable, that life will return to some semblance of normalcy. And I think it will. And I think we need to take California and Los Angeles, where I am now, as the model. The state of California has reached approximately 50% of the people vaccinated, either with a total or first dose. We're calling this the tipping point. Our infectivity rate is 0.6%. Things are going to be opening up. It's one of the lowest, if not the lowest, in the country. So when we reach that level, we may not reach herd immunity, but we will reach a point where we really can start being, well, a little more normal-ish, if you wish.
Right, we want that, of course, and the FDA is on the verge of approving the Pfizer vaccine for 12 to 15-year-olds. Those kids make up about 5% of the US population. So what's the best way to get them vaccinated and convince their parents that they need to do this?
Well, I think the parents need to know that their children are at risk for contracting COVID. When a segment of the population has been vaccinated and there is a segment that has been left unvaccinated, that is the segment that the virus is going to prey upon. That's going to be the children. Therefore, if they want the children to return back to school, they should be vaccinated. If they want their children to be safe and not contract COVID, they should be vaccinated. That should be enough to convince, I think, almost any parents.
Yeah, it's so important to get that messaging right, isn't it? Because for some people, they understand it, others are still digging their heels in and coming up with all sorts of conspiracy theories in relation to that. So how worried are you that this pandemic could be prolonged and even return with a vengeance in the winter if not enough Americans and other global citizens get vaccinated? India, of course, being a stark reminder that this is not over yet.
Honestly speaking, I'm quite concerned. And I think that people need to realize that unless we have a global effort to stop COVID infections, this is going to linger for years, not for months, but for years. You have to realize this is almost a year and a half since we already started and the virus started in China. So if you have pockets of infection throughout the world, those pockets are going to create mutations. They are going to spread. We're in this together. So am I concerned? Yes. And I think the reality is that unless people really buckle up, do their bit, get vaccinated, this is going to be prolonged for years.
Yeah, and of course, we know from data that 20% of Americans are resistant, not just hesitant, but resistant to getting this vaccine.
In the fall, but that remote learning is actually here to stay. Try secure.
Go to in camps than we do in restaurants, than we do for adults. Why?
He appeared on CNN to discuss President Biden's new vaccination goal. He said it'll be a challenge, but one
The streets for political rally.
aside. Organization. And we had hesitant but resistant to
Is that unless people really buckle up, do their bit, get vaccinated, this is going to be prolonged for years.
Yeah, and of course, we know from data
Started an effort.
is not over yet.
Honestly speaking, I'm quite concerned. And I think that people need to realize that unless we have a global effort to stop COVID infections, this is going to linger for years, not for months, but for years. You have to realize this is almost a year and a half since we already started and the virus started in China. So if you have pockets of infection throughout the world, those pockets are going to create mutations. They are going to spread. We're in this together. So am I concerned? Yes. And I think the reality is that unless people really buckle up, do their bit, get vaccinated, this is going to be prolonged for years.
Yeah, and of course, we know from data that 20% of Americans are resistant, not just hesitant, but resistant to getting this vaccine. So if we can find out some sort of message to reach those people, that's what we need. Dr. Jorge Rodriguez, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And we head to India next, where the COVID crisis accounts for 1 in every 4 coronavirus deaths and nearly half of all infections in the world in the past week. That is according to the World Health Organization. The government reported nearly 3,800 deaths today. Meanwhile, the court in the most populous state says patients dying due to lack of oxygen is nothing short of genocide. And many are blaming Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government. CNN's Clarissa Ward has a report.
As a raging pandemic tore across the country, thousands flocked to the streets for political rallies, with hardly a mask in sight. At one gathering, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi praised the turnout. I've never seen such huge crowds at a rally.
On that same day, more than 260,000 new cases of COVID were recorded in India. Shortly after, millions of worshippers were allowed to congregate for the end of the weeks-long Hindu Kumbh Mela pilgrimage. After all, Modi had already declared victory against COVID.
In a country where 18% of the world's population lives, we averted a major tragedy by effectively controlling the coronavirus. We saved mankind from a big disaster by saving our citizens from the pandemic.
As a second wave of coronavirus ravages this country, those words have come back to haunt Modi. Critics accuse him of putting his political interests ahead of the health of the nation.
We didn't even ask the question of what we needed to do based on learnings from this last year in the event that we'd have a second wave. A second wave was never off the table. You just have to look around the world. You don't have to be a scientist to say that. We did nothing. Instead, we celebrated, a bit too prematurely, Indian exceptionalism.
Now, India's healthcare system is on the brink of collapse, with shortages of everything from doctors and drugs to beds and oxygen after years of neglect.
It was always going to be difficult to contain the spread of COVID here in India. This is a densely populated country of nearly 1.4 billion people. The Indian government is blaming the rapid spread on this new double mutant variant, and it says that it warns states to remain vigilant.
Still, many doctors agree that the devastating toll of this second wave could have been mitigated with better preparations and a coordinated response. Assured of victory against the virus, India began exporting the vaccines it was producing instead of inoculating its own population.
How much responsibility does Prime Minister Modi bear for this?
He's the Prime Minister of the country. He takes full responsibility for all that we do good and all that goes wrong.
Do you think this will have an impact on his popularity?
I think as of now, what we have seen, especially over the last 3 weeks, is complete policy abdication. And certainly I hope that we hold our government accountable for what we are seeing today.
The government has announced a raft of measures to try to combat this crisis, including drafting in medical students to help doctors, getting the Navy involved, getting the Air Force involved. But some are saying simply that it's too little, too late. And while it's not clear what the political fallout might be for Prime Minister Modi, people are saying here that this problem is not going away. One state health minister warning that there could be a third wave on the horizon. Clarissa Ward, CNN, New Delhi.
So let's bring in CNN's Anna Coren, following developments live from Hong Kong. Good to see you, Anna. Of course, a lot of questions being asked about where all the medical aid coming from overseas is being distributed and where Prime Minister Modi is right now, because no one has seen him. What is going on? He has been MIA now, Rosemary, for more than 2 weeks. Yes, he is tweeting, and if you go to his Twitter account, you can see him tweeting about certain policies and congratulating certain ministers on political results. But really, when it comes to a commander-in-chief addressing his nation in a time of crisis, he is virtually absent. And people are saying it is time for him to speak up and speak to his people. You mentioned the aid. More than 300 tons of aid has arrived in the last 5 days. And once again, where is this aid? Why isn't it getting to the hospitals that so desperately need it? We know there's acute shortage of everything, in particular oxygen. Those acute shortages of oxygen are still being felt across the country and in the capital, Delhi. The health ministry today, Rosemary, said that it's set up 2 oxygen plants to try and alleviate some of those shortages that the capital is facing. Another 5 plants will follow, but it's very slow moving. And you know, we have been covering this story now for 2 weeks, and the question is, why is it taking so long when you've got 36 countries from around the world pledging aid, sending it? Why are people still dying? The High Court of Allahabad in Uttar Pradesh, which is the most populous state in India, 200 million people, also one of the hardest hit states during this second wave. High Court there has been scathing of its criticism of the state government in its mishandling of the oxygen crisis. It has described it as a criminal act and nothing short of genocide. I mean, such strong language. Unfortunately, the ramifications are not there. This is really just a slap on the wrist. People in India are feeling it is up to them to look after one another because their government has abandoned the rosary.
Yeah, it is unacceptable. And of course, a life-death situation. Anna Corrin bringing us up to date from her vantage point there in Hong Kong. Many thanks. Well, Donald Trump was suspended indefinitely from Facebook in January, but will that decision be reversed? Just hours from now, we'll find out.
IHOP now has bigger bacon. It's 5 times thicker than maple glaze.
God.
And then I can go to Bank B, and when they ask me if I've ever been a donor before, if I say no, there's no way to be able to track me right now.
So where has the law sort of made rules that are important? I mean, example, he shared that in Israel, the Supreme Court of that country banned what he's doing. But that's probably the only country that's banned it. What does the U.S. rule book say about how many times you can donate if you're a sperm donor?
Well, there is no law, but the American Society of Reproductive Medicine says no more than 25 families per donor is recommended. However, there's no way to enforce that, right? And especially, he calls himself a donor, but he's really not a donor. Donors get sexually transmitted disease testing. They have legal representation on both sides. They don't have sex with the participants in the process. They don't give their sperm to somebody at Starbucks in a cup and have them transfer it in the bathroom into their vagina. That's just not normal.